Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I'm your host, Jose Galison. No kitty of the day today, but we have Liquid Zulu with us today to talk about his beef with Dave Smith. We have a horde of Epstein news, effectively confirming he is an Israeli asset of some sort, and it looks like Trump may have known about some of his degeneracy. We'll be taking a deep dive into the past and doing a little prep for an upcoming episode I have tonight. I'll be digging into Terrence Yeakey again. We'll read Wendy Painting's article on that from way back in the day, and I may have a couple other little threads to go through, guys, depending on time, digging into particularly the J6 pipe bombing and kind of maybe the flaws in that. And then the idea of whether or not Tyler Robinson could or could not disassemble that thing or hide it in his clothes or whatever. So should be a fun show today. Now, if you like hearing my hot takes Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, or if you just want to see the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you get notifications. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day.
All right.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here, November 12th. I have a interesting guest for you guys today. This is the first time I think me and Zulu have ever interacted aside from a quick DM exchange. But the fates have drove us together, and here we are. Zulu, could you introduce yourself for our audience? Let us know who you are, what you're about. And I'll probably actually pry a little bit more at those sort of things because don't take this in a condescending way. Not that I think you would. I've only been vaguely familiar with who you are and what you're about, and I mean, I'm sure you're probably maybe in a similar boat. That's, like I said, it's not condescending. There's people with hundreds of thousands of followers that I don't fucking... So, but point being, I'm kind of vaguely familiar with who you are, what you're about. I actually kind of get a vibe that we actually, in certain ways, have diametrically opposed beliefs, but in a weird way, we kind of come to like, well, he's got a point. So, Zulu, go ahead, commence with the introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on a minute. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, I've seen you on Twitter before, like, you know, interacting, but I haven't watched the show much at all. But yeah, no, I guess we just we were in different orbits or whatever. But yeah, no, it's I'm Liquid Zulu. I run a YouTube channel. That's the title of it. Where basically my whole my big philosophical project is trying to unite together objectivism with anarcho-capitalism, because I think that the objectivists, I believe they got all the rest of philosophy right, but then they kind of fucked up when they got into politics, and you have all sorts of terrible things which come from the objectivists, specifically in this one area. And so I recognized this, and I was like, hold on, but who got right? Who got all that right? Well, it was Murray Rothbard's legal theory. So I was like, well, let's see if we can marry these things together. And as it turns out, yes, you can. You can root the non-aggression principle in objectivist premises. So that's like my whole overarching thing. But obviously, more recently, my most recent video was all about Dave Smith, and specifically, rather, what it is using Dave Smith as sort of an example, an archetype, to show what I consider to be a very big problem with the libertarian movement, which is that the pragmatists, they were kicked out when the Mises Caucus came in, and it was all going great. We were going to have some radicals finally, but then the supposed radicals in the Mises Caucus, they started adopting what I'd term neo-pragmatism, where it's the same old shtick, but just for the rightists instead of the leftists. And I think I draw it quite cleanly why that's a problem.
It's funny. I actually, I don't know if you watched my show yesterday, but I gave my analysis because kind of how this all started and kind of what I guess the sort of the short beef I had with Dave is that I had actually, I think on Friday I'd watched my buddy Clint Russell's episode with Ian Carroll and Clint, obviously himself, and Dave. And there was just some things in there I noticed, and there were like things that, like, how like you see something, but you're like, I'm not gonna say anything, but you see it like numerous times, and it's something you're like, okay, I gotta like, all right, now I gotta provide my critique. I've seen a certain. The point is, like, I'm trying to drive at here is it seems like there is a crazy overlap between me and you. Use critiques in a certain sense, although you're coming at it from more of a theory perspective. I guess I'm coming at it from more of a layman's real ass dude type of perspective. I don't like once again. I don't know if you saw it, but and maybe you've seen the Fuentes thing going around recently. I know he kind of has been getting a little bit irritated by the moderating force, I guess you could say, seemingly coming from Dave. And that is more where my critique was at, the idea of, like, what are you doing? Like, for me, I like, for example, like the idea that, I mean, you can disagree with Fuentes, and me and you, I'm sure, both have many disagreements with him, but like things like, I don't know, joking about Hitler or this or that, if you're like, it's a modern, it's like, who fucking cares? Like, my thing is, like, is it good faith? Are you behaving in a good faith manner? Like that's kind of my thing. Like, are you being honest? Are you being authentic? Is it good faith? And especially with something like offensive things or comedy, I think there's something magical that occurs because you're intentionally behaving in an ambiguous manner. So you're making it incumbent upon the receiver of your message to interpret it carefully. And if they choose like that, I think that choice that they make tells a lot, and you can kind of run with that. And I think as men, a lot of times we kind of do that to each other. I mean, I don't know your upbringing, but like, I don't know. I know me, like me and my brother or me and my buddies would be fucking slap each other in the dick, but like, hey, faggot, like, and that's kind of what that is. You're essentially doing some rough thing, and you're in your own weird way trying to show love or whatever. And like, maybe there is malice, but I guess you're kind of being like, how are you going to act about this? Are you going to be a bitch? Are you going to be cool? Are you going to interpret this with good faith, with brotherly love, or are you going to interpret this as me being a bully? How are you going to interpret this? And I think there's something to that. I think, and there's like, it's funny. That was kind of in a weird way also your critique from a praxis type perspective. And that was something I was pointing out as it was happening in Mises Caucus. For a little backstory, I'm like the agarist guy. I guess you could say I'm like some weird hodgepodge of like Hoppianism, agorism, and what's the other thing? And like Sternerism. Like at my core, I am you're an objectivist. It's funny, me and you, I said we're diametrically opposed. Like I'm like my principles should serve me. I don't serve my principles. Like that's my type of vibe. Like you're obviously probably the exact opposite, but I can still recognize. I do find it funny because a lot of people are pointing out like how absurd you're. Like being like, oh, it's absurd what look Zulu like this or what, like the principled whatever, and you're like, yeah, but like any deontologist would tell me that what I believe is absurd. So like, I mean, it's just kind of, well, then we have the discussion. I mean, you can say that deontology or essentially like a principled position is not correct, and that's fine if you just want to like maybe see it in like time preference terms or something and be like, well, maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and for this specific example, we'll break the nap or whatever. But yeah, anyways, I found it interesting there was some sort of overlap between our two critiques, and coming at it from very different ways. Mine's coming more like a masculine social psychology type perspective, whereas yours is like theory. And I just find it funny that obviously they interact since we're talking praxis.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely. And like, I do want to point out, like, the whole, the whole ZZ, the Zyke and everything, people have been saying like, well, I mean, you're being very inflammatory here. This is very aggressive type of behavior, right? Which indeed it is, and deliberately so, because people are seeing like the tip of the spear here. Like this has been going on, as you point out, for quite a while. These problems have existed with the Mises Caucus crowd, and I was one of the people who was very supportive of the Mises Caucus in the initial days. I wasn't a member because obviously I don't live in America, so there's no connection to the USLP for me. But we were initially the people in my sort of crowd, we were approaching people like Dave, like completely openly in good faith, like, hey, I think you're getting some of these things wrong, and I think you should address some of these problems that we have. But then slowly over time, at least as far as I see it, Dave was the one who started drawing first blood against us. He started going hard against us. So then it's like, okay, well then we accept your terms. If that's the type of conversation you want to have, then we're going to have that, and I'm going to go all in on that type of conversation.
Yeah, which is exactly what I did over the weekend. So, like, although it weirdly worked out differently for me because I have that relationship, we kind of seem to bridge that and talk. So I'll be honest, me and him are cool right now. We're friends, but it's also like I do like got to be honest, and like these are the things I'm characterizing a lot differently had we not squashed it, you know. But I do actually have a lot of respect for Dave. I totally get where he's coming from. I mean, it sounds to me like you actually, like you said, you somewhat were okay with the LPMC. When I said I was agorist, I actually don't mean that in like the dumb way of someone who's not actually ever read Konkin. Like I've literally read all of his works. Like I'm not some idiot who's like, oh hey, I'm some so-and-so agorist and here I am running for office or whatever the fuck. Like, wow, you clearly didn't read the fucking books, did you? Or you just don't give a shit about Konkin, I guess. Which, whatever, that's fair, I guess. But that's where I'm coming from. I never even really necessarily advocate political action. I mean, it's kind of like it exists. I never was like a curmudgeon about it because it's like whatever it is. I just don't really care to argue about it. That's kind of my perspective. Every now and then I'll point out where I have critiques and be like, you guys are being ridiculous here. But it sounds to me like you are more praxis. Am I correct there in that you are kind of pro using the political entity towards your ends? Because I actually think maybe you don't agree. I think there's something, I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe you can intellectualize a little bit better. But there's almost like this force. And I know you brought this as like this narrowing or widening and narrowing thing in your video. And this is what happened with the LPMC. They started out very radical, and then you started noticing forces within the party, mostly from leadership, that started being moderating forces, which, depending on what you're moderating, I guess is fine. But I think it was trying to cut down on offensive language or something. But anyways, my point being is kind of it seems there's certain incentives in place in political parties that almost prevent that. So I don't know if you were necessarily putting that all on Dave or if that's just the party. I don't even really think it was Dave. If anything, I actually think if I had to guess with the group, like if there were conversations, I actually feel like Dave was probably the voice pulling it the other way. But this is a party, and they kind of we talk behind closed doors, and then all right, now we have our messaging, and so then now it presents itself. So. I know, I forget what was even my point of driving at there. I was working to a question, but I forgot. I guess the praxis. Are you someone who is actually trying to utilize the party, and what do you think about that concept? Do you think there's something to the idea of there being incentives in place in political parties that, especially once you get off the ground running, like I think like an upstart, like they'll be like, oh, that's cool. They'll court like a rising upstart, but once it starts, gaining power, then the moderating forces come into play.
I'm not necessarily opposed to using political parties. I think that it can be a good thing, and I sort of lay out the way I see what I think should be done with a political party. One aspect of that is one thing which I do think was very good, which came out of the Mises Caucus, was the decentralized revolution thing, where you start going into these smaller level elections and trying to affect real change, and you can use the spoiler effect very effectively there, to just get these other people to start really giving us concessions, and you can get this up even into like the senatorial level if you're well organized enough. So I think that, and to be clear, for the presidential candidate, I think that the spoiler effect, I gave a theoretical reason why I think the spoiler effect would be very, very rare to ever be able to work on the national level. First of all, because almost everybody's like, well, no, this is the presidential election. This is the most important election of our lifetime, every election in a row. So they're really not going to be looking to really go, oh, but did this guy follow through in his promises the last time? No, it's going to be, no, we need to get this guy in, or else it'll be the other guy, and the other guy will be Satan, right? So people are really not looking towards, did they follow through on their promises previously? Whereas if this sheriff, it's like, hey, he said he was going to do these things in his campaign last time, but he didn't do them, so I'm not going to vote for him anymore. That's a lot easier to do because these people don't have term limits, right? With Trump, it really doesn't matter to him at all that he didn't follow through on Doge or any of those promises, right? Putting a libertarian in the cabinet, he didn't have to follow through on any of that because fundamentally he's never going to be president ever again. So who cares, right? He's not bound by absolutely anything. Now, as to whether there could be like some sort of like corrupting force. I mean, there is at least one piece of evidence that there would be, which you could point to, which is that the Mises Caucus did start out as these radicals, pardon me, and then they've stopped being radicals. So that would seem to very much point towards your thesis there. I'm not sure that I am entirely convinced that is the reason. I can only ever speculate on like the the motivations of what drove them towards this. I do think particularly the borders issue was one linchpin where they really decided to make it into a wedge issue, and that therefore they took that as the primary, which then allowed them to latch onto the culture war, which then they're no longer talking about radicalism anymore. But I think the cure for this is really at least the leadership needs to be deeply philosophically educated. They need to be deeply motivated. Like with a Ron Paul, like, he's not just some guy, right? He's very, very highly educated. He know, like, I saw him speak at Yalcon last year, I believe it was, and the guy, he can just rattle on about Austrian economics, tying all these different topics together, even in his old age. Like, the guy's clearly very sharp, and he knows a lot of his stuff. That's what I think you need to have at the leadership level. And I don't see that in someone like a Dave Smith, who was sort of taken as the champion of the Mises Caucus and then quickly replaced with somebody who's even worse, Michael Rechtenwald. What a disaster that was.
I was kind of thinking about it. It's like maybe you could even make a case that's almost like a bit of a, maybe not quite, obviously it doesn't, like a central planning or almost even like an economic calculation problem in a sense, because if you do think about political activism or whatever, I mean, what do you have for like a profit indicator? I mean, I guess you have money coming into the party, you have votes, but I think me and you would both agree those are not great indicators. So if you are operating along those metrics, as any party will, and trying to get them not to is, seems to me, fighting incentives. You can do that for so long before it bites back. So I kind of, and I think you brought up Ron Paul there, but the point I always bring up when we get these conversations, like, well, that's kind of the point. You had to bring up Ron Paul. Like, I mean, I guess maybe now we have like, what, a Massey? Like, I guess maybe getting a little bit better, but like, and even that's debatable, but like, yeah, so it's like you have one. So it's like the idea of like, you talk to a gambler and they're like, well, I fucking got a jackpot back in like 82 as they're fucking cha-ching, 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 like wasting their whole day around in the penny slots. You're like, yeah, well, like, I don't know. I think if you really maybe broke down the numbers here, you probably would have been better to spend your time elsewhere. You know, like, I mean, you can always look to the wins, like the Ron Pauls. That's obviously not taking anything away from him, but I think it's I guess if it was me, obviously, it's I said the central planning problem, so it kind of flies in the face, because it's like, my thing is like the idea of like getting a large group of particularly individualists on board with some sort of praxis. It's like, it better be a goddamn simple praxis, essentially, which it does sound like yours is pretty simple, and that's actually one of my things is like this narrowing and widening. It's like you're confusing your people, so they can't at all expect what praxis to behave upon. Man, I'm loopy today. I lost my point there, but essentially to the idea of like political activism, and perhaps like maybe because it's along different lines. Oh, I know I was driving it. The idea is like, I was kind of saying it's ironic because like obviously I can't centrally plan, so I can't get everyone to do it. But if somehow you could, the most simplest of thing would just be engaging with the Mises Institute. Like if we could just get everyone, that would be my opinion. Like if somehow we could just get everyone, that would be the way. Like you said, intellectualism drive the way. I mean, those things leak into influencing people like me and you, Dave, everybody. And instead of a celebritarian, we have a horde of celebritarians, and it no longer becomes, because I actually think there's an issue when you have this, as I point to this like Ron Paul thing or Dave Smith thing. You have one example, and it's like that was what the LPMC like hinged their whole thing on, was Dave running, and you're like, yeah, but that's one dude. Like, you can't do that. Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts. I'm kind of a little bit rambling there, but it's been a while since I've got to talk a little bit about praxis, like whether or not to engage in political action. But I don't know if you have any thoughts there. I think maybe there's something to it.
For sure. Yeah, I would definitely say that like getting votes or getting like donors to the party or anything like that. Pardon me. I absolutely agree that is nowhere near primary. That would be, and I think I do agree with you that a lot of people, they do take that as their, key performance indicator, which I believe that lady who was part of the Colorado LP, but actually she left towards the Dems, which I highlighted in my video. She actually said that her key performance indicator was getting more votes. So then she was like, okay, so then we're going to endorse RFK now. Whether he's a libertarian or not, who cares? He's going to get more votes. It's like, okay, well then clearly that we've gone quite off the deep end.
At least he'll take care of the anti-Semitism problem for us.
The number one medical problem in the US.
Sorry, go on, I cut you off.
I think that the fundamental that your strategy should be focused on is based in this idea of Leonard Peikoff's philosophical theory of history. You've got to what do you got to do? You've got to reach the philosophers, the people who are pushing these ideas, the originators, because, a lot of the time people kind of invert what they're doing. They're trying to chase and convince the normies, but what does it mean to call someone a normie?
That's
Well,
good.
That's
One second. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but that's another point where we overlapped hardcore, because that's kind of my point to this like behavior, this like offensive, you may consider offensive whether or not, this idea of like we might chase people away. Like, yeah, well, they can suck a dick. Like, we're not appealing to the norms. We are creating the norms. That's the idea. Like, I don't behave as if, like, obviously if I'm talking individually with a normie, like, whatever, but if I'm talking to a large audience, I'm looking for certain people, and I'm looking for people that I want to hang out with, and the people I want to hang out with are the people who vibe with me, and that's how I vibe. Oh yeah.
It's almost like an opportunity cost argument you could make here, because like, yeah, you could, if you were like really, pardon me, if you're like really hardcore trying to groom some normies, you could perhaps hold on to them and herd them into libertarianism and hold on to them really hard for a while, but eventually they're just going to wander off. And they haven't actually originated any philosophy. They haven't actually pushed the philosophy at all. Like, you've not done anything there. Whereas if you convert one true vanguard member, true radical, you gather that remnant there, well, that has an exponential effect. Because ultimately, if you could get control of, like, if 1% of the population who are all like vanguard members in the world, if you got that 1%, and they were all radical libertarians, well, boy howdy, you could move mountains with that. That would be so unbelievably powerful. I mean, I bring the example in the video of the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks, they weren't the majority of the population. They were a tiny minority, but they took all the biggest country on earth. Like that, there's something to look at there. How did they do that? Well, they didn't do it by trying to appeal to the normies. They did it by trying to get this vanguard, and that's why I very much agree with the vanguard strategy, which Rothbard kind of pioneered.
All right. I mean, if you guys in the chat have any more questions about theory, let us know. I think we'll probably meander out of there. I'm kind of curious. I guess maybe we can kind of get into the controversy. I mean, I guess we kind of are dabbling in it. I guess the first one. I guess we can maybe dive back in a second and kind of the actual substance. Although there has been a thing that developed of all this. I guess some sort of clip you did, and then people debate whether it's edited. I don't fucking know. Point being is, it does seem like, to me particularly, I'm not saying you agree with this, obviously, you're about to give your opinion, but I fucking despise Jack and Foe. They're fucking awful. They're just... And I see, and I don't know, I feel like when I've seen this, I did not interpret that as like Dave threatening to kill Foe or something. I guess you could get there, but it's like, that's as I said with the good faith thing, that's not really like, I don't know, you get there from there, like you have a whole body of work of things he said in the past. It's like, that doesn't really comport with it. So it just seems to be like coming to that conclusion seems bizarre. And I also did talk on the phone. I didn't ask him directly that, but I do remember the way he characterized it. I was like, I don't think I'm speaking at turn or anything. I think he'd be fine if he say that, like, he clearly thinks it's ridiculous, because it's like, what the fuck? But I know, I will say, I think this is part of what caused the issue with me and Dave, because I was completely blinded to whatever that was going on, because they had me blocked, and I've had them blocked for a very, very, very fucking long time. So it's like, I literally was like, I saw a couple little posts, so in the replies about it. So I thought it was like a nothing burger. Apparently it was a pretty big deal. Everyone was making a big deal out of it at the same time as my shit was going on. So I just kind of your thoughts on that, I guess. I mean, you don't have to give any opinions on Foe or Jack. I was just putting it out freely. Fuck them. But, just kind of thoughts on that. Like, do you think that was Dave calling for the murder of Foe? Like, just kind of, I don't know if you want to answer anything about that. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, yeah. So I would say, I'm on good enough terms with Jack and Foe. I mean, Jack's been, we've streamed together a few times here and there. But I would say, like, one thing you have to like keep in mind here is that they're going to be particularly sensitive about that. Jack's going to be particularly sensitive about that, because I mean, it is his wife. Like, I think, like, if somebody was saying that about Dave's family, he wouldn't be like willing to, like, go like, okay, well, what is the most charitable interpretation here? Like, you got to acknowledge that a little bit.
I don't know. I guess I disagree a little bit. I mean, but I guess I can kind of get where you're coming from. That you are. I get, but that's my point. Like, you can be coming from an emotional position, but I'm not necessarily going to let you forgive you for it. Like,
Sure.
I do think I'm not going to say forgive. Not that I'm like necessarily like upset at them about it. But the point is, it's still ridiculous. I think it was still irrational. I think to me, it's clearly, if anyone looked at that, to me at least. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Because I do know Dave, but I kind of interpret it with a good faith and like, well, I've seen him say this, that doesn't seem to match up. I don't think he's calling for Foe to be killed. Perhaps he is. I mean, one thing to ask for clarification, but it does seem like everyone kind of ran with it like that was the case.
So I will say like I've taken like pictures of the timeline in my editing timeline, right? And like Dave does literally go straight from talking about calling you a commie or Nazi is the kindest thing I can say. What I actually want to say, I don't want to say live on air, into like the classic clip of like, well, there are some things worth killing people over. Now, I don't actually provide any interpretation of that in the video. I don't say, look, he's calling for the murder of Foe. When I was watching that during editing, I was like, okay, well, he's being fairly hyperbolic here. He's being fairly
yeah, that's how I interpret it. And to be real quick, that's how I interpreted what you were saying, to be very clear, so there's no confusion. I wasn't at all thinking you were saying that, but because when I actually found out, I was confused. I had to like backtrack and be like, wait, what's going on? What was the controversy? Because I didn't see any controversy in the video aside from like, oh, here's some pretty good, fairly decent arguments. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And to be clear, like, because people have come in and they've been saying that I was deceptively editing Dave. It's like, no, I wasn't. I edited out. If you look at the whole context, people are like, oh, but you did edit out some stuff there. It's like, well, yeah, duh. I can't include an entire like 3-hour long stream in the middle of my already 3-hour long video. Like, I've got to cut some stuff out, but the stuff I cut out, nobody's been able to point to me and say why the stuff I cut out was relevant. Like, what specific context did I deceptively edit out? Like, people have said that to me, and I've said, okay, well, what specific context? And they're like, but you did edit out something. It's like, no, what specifically did I edit out that changes the meaning of what Dave said? And so I just want to get that across. Like, I didn't deceptively edit Dave at all. Those are his words, and if you're offended by those words and you don't like those words, well, don't come after me. Go after Dave, because in that section, I don't cut from calling you a Nazi is the kindest thing I can say. What I really want to say is worse than that. There are some things worth killing people over. I don't cut at all in that section. So if you think that is me signaling that Dave is calling for someone's death, well, maybe that's on you, and you've got to consider that, like Dave Smith fans. If you think I'm deceptively editing that to make it sound like he's calling for someone's death, well, then maybe that's your position on that.
Mm. I do have Biblical Anarchy. It says specific context missing was what Dave talking about. If I was poor and had to send my kids to public, so it sounds like there was like a preamble to that statement, and that was what got cut out. And it was, if I was poor and had to send my kids to public schools, and you put my kids in danger, I'd do something. So that was the context I guess people would say was missing. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that does clarify it more. And you put my kids in danger. I don't know. I do think that's so ambiguous that it's kind of hard to get from there to there. But like, whatever. As you said, I mean, whether or not people want to consider that deceptively edited to cut that out, I don't know. It's debatable. I understand you're making a 3.5 hour long video. I'm a fucking retard when it comes to editing. And so like, I can only imagine. I'd be like, just kind of blindly, you had 1 million cuts during that. So like, I don't know. I feel like it's almost also a little bit of a flip of bad faith somewhat to be like, assume something here. I don't know. Cause it's like, maybe you could say you should have included that, but you are going through and including lots of clips, and you can't, it's like, what do you, at some point you're like, what do you expect me to do? Include entire podcasts within my own podcast? So I mean, I don't know, perhaps it would have been better, but then you could also make the argument it would have been better to include the entire podcast to give context. Like, we get to a little bit of a reductio absurdum. At some point you have to draw a line, and you could be upset about it, but at the end of the day, it sounds to me like you're saying that you didn't even really take it as like necessarily a death threat or anything in the time. Sounds like you were just using it as an example of kind of like a hyperbolic language around the idea of like public property or something like that. Yeah,
that was what I was trying to communicate with that clip. And now, to be clear, like, his literal words taken like at face value, like I can absolutely see why you would interpret that as a death threat. Like like it's not completely outside the realm of reason. I did take it as like this is the rhetoric he started putting forward, where he's that's sort of what I wanted to point out. Like, this is kind of the attitude he has. I used it as evidence that like he really does believe in his policy of taking the entire U.S. military and putting it on the border and securing our border. Like he really does want some very violent border restrictions. That's the what I was using as evidence for, because some people have previously said when that clip first arose, it's like, no, he's just saying he wants to take the military home. That would be good. It's like, well, no, he doesn't just say that. He says a whole other thing, and I really don't like that other thing.
All right, I just realized I totally forgot to run you through the icebreaker clips for fun, but oh well. I guess just for I'll do one of the funny ones, but let's take a little bit back step. I want to go into HOPA because we were talking about immigration. We'll kind of jump off of that, maybe do a little fun side clip and then get back into it. Maybe talk a little immigration here in a second. But let's look at this clip from HOPA that kind of went around. This was supposed to be the icebreaker thing. I fucked up my format today. My bad, guys. But I thought this was a pretty good clip. I was going to put a little bit of a funnier clip before, but whatever. Seems out of place now. We'll do that later. But here it is. Let's watch. This is. I figured since we're a little bit, you're an international feller, we'd talk a little bit about some international stuff. Here's HOPA on Malay.
But I will simply mention one thing that, in my eyes, disqualifies him from the outset to be even considered to be a libertarian, and that is his relationship that he has to Israel and especially to Netanyahu in person. He received a $1 million prize out of the hands of Netanyahu. He danced with Netanyahu in the streets while they were bombing the Gaza Strip. He excused everything that Israel does and still does as this is just self-defense. He hailed him as being a great liberal, despite the fact, as we have heard, that Israel is a socialist state. All land is basically owned by the Israeli government. So that alone, in my eyes, given the fact that Netanyahu, in my eyes, is a mass murderer, is a war criminal, I think his being sentenced as a war criminal was perfectly all right, despite the fact that this court that exists that pronounces these sorts of things is also occupied by somewhat crazy people. Nonetheless, sometimes even crazy people come up with correct judgments in certain cases, and I think in the case of Netanyahu, to refer to him as a person who is engaged in genocidal activities is perfectly all right, and I don't think anybody who ever defends this person and receives $1 million prize from this person out of his hands is disqualified as a libertarian. The name of libertarians will be ruined forever, given this type of event.
All right, so what do you think about that, Zulu? I'm assuming you're probably pretty on. I'd assume that I am. I'm pretty damn in line with him here. What are your thoughts on the Malay phenomenon? Because I haven't paid attention to a ton because it is international, and to some extent I don't care. But it has been this like first example of like, oh look, libertarian on the stage, and pretty quickly I got the hint, and then for pointing out the hint, you go, you're an anti-Semite. You're like, I don't know, he's hugging that wall pretty goddamn hard. So Zulu, I don't know, what are your thoughts on Malay? Is HOPA correct? And then obviously we'll use it as a segue to get into immigration here in a second.
Sure. So I think with Malay, and actually I was watching Fabian Liberty's stream last night where he kind of went over a little bit of this stuff as well. Apparently Malay no longer calls himself a libertarian. He now calls himself a paleo-libertarian. But the thing I always like keep in mind with Malay is, first of all, there's going to be a lot of socialist propaganda against him. Like, without a doubt, that's been there since the beginning. So it's difficult to sift through that, which is compounded with the fact that I don't goddamn speak the language. So it's difficult for me to actually, so I really don't look into it a whole lot because, well, I got to run through everything through like a translate step. Like, so I just haven't really been paying much attention to Malay's presidency. Now, it's entirely possible that Malay has done some bad things, Now, maybe maybe some of those bad things are because he didn't have like a majority that he needed to do something, so he had to get some sort of a compromise. That's all very possible. But I would say like, yeah, I don't think Malay necessarily has to be held up as like he is the ultimate like, radical libertarian and he's a politician and everything. You don't have to necessarily lionize Malay to go, well, it is actually a very good thing. And this is the thing I took away from the Malay presidency, is like it was a very good thing that La Libertad Avanza, that they got into power and that they are continuing to get into power. Like, this is an unbelievable improvement over the Peronists, right? It would be as if, the Libertarian Party in the US got into power and had like the majority of the House or whatever, and you had like fucking Ron Paul as the Libertarian. Like, that would be a massive improvement. Now, that wouldn't necessarily mean that like Malay is doing everything perfectly. He might, he doesn't even call himself a libertarian apparently anymore. And I definitely don't think that you should take the tact of always, no matter what, Malay must have had an excuse. Like, there's definitely, I could definitely see a world where, you could point to some legitimate criticism of him. And I definitely, if Hoppe's accusations are correct, then yeah, there are definitely legitimate criticisms in there. But that's of Malay the man. Now, what I don't like is a lot of people are taking these sorts of criticisms and using it as an opportunity to counter-signal completely that Malay won. But I think it was still a very good thing, even if Malay has bad parts about him. It was still very good that he got in, so we don't have literal fucking communists running Argentina anymore.
Well, this does kind of work perfectly as a segue from this to immigration, because funny enough, I actually use as an example of kind of to this point, I guess, the roughly immigration, and I guess a little bit of background on me is I'm pretty agnostic, I guess you could say, on the border thing. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. I'm kind of like leaning more towards like I definitely don't ever advocate the government do anything. Because it's kind of like, I don't know. That's always like it always seems to be a scary idea to me. Like, because you ask him for something, I'm like, okay, and they'll do it while fucking you. So, but for example, I think his name's like Samdi or something. Recently, there was a guy who I believe it was for like almost 2 weeks. He was detained recently. He got his visa revoked. He had a visitor visa. He was completely legit. Came to the United States. Some guy from the UK, I think some Muslim guy or something. I want to say he was like a comedian or something, like some sort of speaker, and he was an anti-Israel guy, and they revoked his visa over here in the States, and he ended up being detained for 2 weeks before they finally let him go. I think they sent him back home. But it's like this guy literally just got kidnapped for 2 weeks for fucking doing absolutely nothing. Like, there's not even a way that you could fucking bend over backwards like Chudley to try to figure this one out. Like, it just doesn't even like, and it is like, I know it started over here in the States as like they're selling this immigration stuff as like, oh, we'll get the bad ones, we'll do this, or the ones that are leeching off the welfare, yada yada yada, or whatever. But it's like, okay, well, how does it really end up working out? Oh, seems to be you're really shoehorning in a lot of Israel stuff here, and it's getting quite authoritarian and quite creepy. And I think if you're not noticing that, I don't know, maybe you're just too entrenched in your own position. I mean, as a libertarian, I guess I can kind of understand coming from like Hoppe's arguments and stuff and getting there. Although I'm not even entirely sure Hoppe was necessarily actually advocating for that in his book. Although I'll ask your opinion. I think he was just kind of laying out an idea. But anyways, so kind of connecting these two, obviously Hoppe here. I know Dave leans a lot on Hoppe's border arguments or his thoughts on them. What are your thoughts particularly on Hoppe's border stance and kind of, I don't know, just I guess maybe lay out where you're at with maybe some quick disagreements with Dave on the immigration thing, because I don't know, we could probably do a whole goddamn show on immigration, but
Sure. So I would say that Hoppe's border stance, I do disagree with it. But ultimately, like, Hoppe isn't like the borders guy. Like, I mean, he talked about it in like one paper, maybe a few times elsewhere. Like, that isn't his main thing. Like, his main thing, at least from us autistic theory cells, is his argumentation ethics. That seems to be his main claim to fame for us. But so like the border thing is fairly peripheral within what you could class as Hans Hermann Hoppe's beliefs, right? Now, I will say, I do think it's wrong, but I also think it's way less of an imposition than something like what somebody like Dave would advocate. Like HOPA, the only requirement would be under HOPA that you'd have to have one domestic recipient willing to invite the person, right? So that he's really focusing in on, well, you don't want forced integration where you're not allowed to, where you don't actually have a domestic recipient. Now,
And even that, that was Block's originally, I believe, right? That was Block's argument, wasn't it? Maybe I'm wrong.
Could be. I don't know.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, but then we'll look at the situation in the US. Well, there are a bunch of companies who want to hire people from abroad. Well, would that not be a single domestic recipient who wants to bring this person over? Well, that would pass HOPA's requirement. But for Dave, it seems entirely different. Dave, his border stance, the closest I can get to understanding fully what it is he wants to take the entire US military and use them to enforce martial law to protect the border, stop people from coming in. Now that has nothing to do with anything that Hoppe said. And in the video, I even classify this type of thing as a Hoppian cargo cult. Like they're just kind of imitating some of the similar language that Hoppe said, but they're not actually taking it to the full extreme. Now, what is my main disagreement with this sort of thing? Well, I think fundamentally, when it comes to public property, and I do agree, public property seems to be like the big linchpin issue here. With public property, I don't agree that it's possible to have like this net taxpayers owning it, because I don't think a group of people can own something. And I also, so then it's either one person owns it or nobody owns it. So definitely in a case of eminent domain, where it's like, hey, the government just took my house and they're building a road over it now. Like, yeah, you can absolutely say, hey, get away from here, because you're the one guy who still owns that thing. Absolutely. But then we're only left with the other option that nobody owns the thing. But then if nobody owns the thing, well, then nobody's allowed to tell anybody. They're not allowed to go there. And I think this applies both to Dave's argument and to Hoppe's argument. Even though Dave, like, I'm not even sure what the status of public property is on his theory, because he says he disagrees in the Soho Forum debate. He says he disagrees that the net taxpayers own that thing as a group. But then he goes on to say, well, then you've got to try and, what you shouldn't do with it is to not do what the majority of Americans don't want to do with it. Then we're just back to democracy. Like, why do you care about what the majority of Americans...
I get in a sense what he's doing. It's this weird semantic game, because it's technically true. It's technically not democracy, but it's like kind of. Like, you're like, it is like if you're like, well, no, we don't need to take a vote, but it's just the government should do this rough approximation. And this is kind of, I guess, my critique I was giving earlier to the praxis too. This you're laying out these ambiguous things and you expect the state to somehow do this, and you're like, I use that example I just gave a minute ago, and you're like, what does it devolve into? It's obviously going to become something else. You're not going to be able to control this in the way you think you do. You're going to be able to. This idea that you're going to be able to nudge the state the way, like, yeah, I might be able to toy with somebody, like say me and somebody are arguing, and I can kind of push buttons just right and manipulate them this way or that way. But if you really think you as we can infiltrate, or we can dictate what the government does with borders in any sort of way that'll be beneficial for us, I don't know. I just feel like you're kind of losing the plot a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, it's giving the ring to Sauron. It's like, but he pinky promised that he was going to use it in our correct ways, or else we're not going to elect him next time. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I mean, gee whiz, at that point you already had destroyed millions of people's lives. I will say, Biblical Anarchy podcast is correct. Dave said that they have a better claim. And sure, I didn't really attack the argument at all in the video, but I just pointed out, like, well, I mean, so what? Like, okay, that, Jose has a better claim to, like, the local public park than Arjun in India, who's, like, on the other side of the planet. Sure, he might have a better claim, but then what that means in libertarian theory is that if there's some dispute between specifically Jose and Arjun, is that Jose gets the precedence there. What it doesn't say is that the government's allowed to continue forestalling this thing and trying to centrally plan it to best fit what Jose thinks and what 300 million other Americans think. Like, that's definitely not what that says. Having the better claim to it, that in no way translates to, therefore the government can somehow solve the economic calculation problem and figure out what should be done with public possessions.
All right, I'm gonna take questions. If you have any questions for Zulu, just what Jacob said here. Question for Zulu, because we have way too many chats in there. So I'll scroll through. I will go once we let Zulu go back. We'll go back through and say our good mornings. Although I'll probably have to truncate it a little bit because there's a lot of ZZs in that motherfucker this morning. Oh, by the way, pro tip: don't ever look up Zulu by just Zulu unless you want to see big black titties. But I don't. I have a weakness for the old jungle ladies, and no. So just look up Liquid Zulu in the future. You do yourself a favor. The Zulu is an African tribe known for having their titties out. So that's a fun one. But question from Jacob: why can you accept Malay as a positive development, even if he's not principled, but not find similar nuance when evaluating Dave if you think Dave isn't principled? Which I'll be honest, I thought I had that thought as you were saying it, but I was just like, whatever, I'll move on to the next topic. I don't want to belabor the point. But yeah, it's a good question.
Sure. So let's take the analogy. Let's say that Dave followed through and running for presidency for the LP, and let's say Dave managed to win, right? I would be over the fucking moon. I'd be like, you know what? This is going to be absolutely very, very positive. But I would still attack Dave Smith, the man, right? I would say, yeah, it's great that the fucking LP won. That is the best thing that's ever happened to America since its founding, right? So that would be the analogy there. It's absolutely valid for people to go in and say, well, Malay's wrong about this thing and that thing and the other thing. I just don't really pay attention to Malay because, I don't speak the language. And, fundamentally, my beef is with Dave Smith. So I really focus heavily on what is Dave Smith, the man, doing. And I think it's very damaging what Dave Smith is doing to the libertarian movement. Now, if he did get into some position of power, if they're like, okay, Dave Smith is now the Fed chair, I'd be like, great, he's going to do a lot better. Or, Dave Smith is going to be the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War now. And if Dave Smith was able to, and like, look, I've said this in other places before, if these people, the neo-pranks, if they were honest about what they were, they stopped pretending to be libertarians and speaking for libertarians, not only just being libertarians, but being the most consistent libertarians out there. If they stopped pretending that and they just joined in with the Republicans and tried to push the Republicans more anti-Fed, more anti-war, I'd be absolutely down with that. Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm completely fine with that. What I'm not fine with is them subverting the theory and pretending as if that is what libertarianism means, because it's not.
All right, we got another question in there. I don't know if this is some sort of inside joke, but whatever, I'll bring it up because I don't recognize this Eddie guy. Is this some sort of joke? I mean, you have inside jokes clearly. So why do you hate Jews, Zulu?
It's entirely possible it's an inside joke. I just no. I think what it is that somebody at one point came into my chat and started accusing me of being a Zionist or something. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'm a member of the Mossad. And, I started running with that. So presumably that's it's linked in some way to that. But no, I don't particularly hate Jews. I think there have been plenty of great Jewish people. Yeah, half our founders are fucking Jewish. Like
Rothbard. Yeah, Rothbard's my fucking goated, dude. All right. I'm gonna play. I wanted to make you laugh or have some fun with you. I totally fucked up the format, but to send you out, we'll do some funny, and it'll give a chance chat to asking more questions if they have any. But I did want to show you this goofball. I know you're not an American, but I don't know if I'm sure you're probably familiar. Huh? Go ahead.
Is that the Palantir guy?
Yeah, it's Palantir. So I figured you're probably at least familiar with him. I don't know if you see this. There was just some funny clips. Just sort of funny. I guess they interviewed him. I know. It's like looking into the eyes of a tech billionaire, or looking into the world of a tech billionaire and seeing what they're about. So let's go and watch this.
To this and deep appreciation for the German culture. I think one of the craziest things is you have this whole thing online where people like laud the Nazis. Like, I spent a lot of time talking to Nazis, like real Nazis, and like understanding what made them tick and what made them. I mean, part of the crazy thing about people who laud the Nazis nowadays is there's not a single Nazi that would ever have included them in their movement and would have shipped them off to the camps quicker maybe than they shipped me off to the camps. And it's like
one more. Just one more to seal the deal. Here it is. This is just more. This is the life of a tech billionaire. Here you go.
What should I do? Should I not do anything?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm just a little bit jealous. But I'll make fun of him, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie. I wish there was a pretty girl next to me. I was swinging swords around.
Yeah, I mean,
my wife will call me a faggot.
Every man wants to be able to be in a position where he can just start swinging swords around, have a bunch of ladies around him. That's the male dream right there.
Yeah. Okay. I decided if you have any thoughts, I just thought it was funny. It'd be a good way to break the ice to start with. But I guess we already broke the ice, and you're like, well, okay. When it was ending with a funny, let's roll the chat. See if there's anything else in there real quick. Oh, Swedish Jim Goblin says, "Are you a Freemason?" All right. We find out if you're part of the global conspiracy.
I'm not allowed to say. I'm under NDA, unfortunately.
Oh, you're under NDA? Okay. There you go. So yes, maybe, no. Okay, what else we got? Zulu, Greeky, Feeky, Freaky fan. Okay, all right. Zulu, is Spike Cohen / Chase Oliver the ideal ticket, assuming the LP USA can't find anyone else of note who isn't a neo-Prague human tumor? Oh, God, please answer this carefully, Zulu. You're about to disappoint me. Are you going to disappoint me? I liked you so far.
I'm not sure ideal ticket would be my exact words. I mean, I'd be fine. With Spike Cohen seems to be fairly fine. I'm not that familiar with him.
Okay, all right. Well, I am.
Chase
okay.
Do you guys not like each other?
He's not awful. It's not even that I don't like him. It's just that he's just milk toast, to be honest.
Yeah. That's
like even with immigration, we were just talking. I'm pretty sure he's not even like a. I know a lot of people look at him because they're like, oh, he's more closer, but even then, he's like an Ellis Island type thing. He's not even really like so like he's kind of like a Prague in my opinion. He may say otherwise, but he basically is.
So definitely then I wouldn't want the Prague ticket because I think Chase Oliver is basically just a revival of the Pragmatist caucus. Let's be real here. So definitely I wouldn't say that's the ideal ticket. What would be the ideal ticket? Maybe Liquid Zulu. Let's get it going, boys.
Debate anything. Question for Zulu. What does electoralism accomplish if the positive public opinion and the corporate constraints on the state does not change? Wouldn't the state just reorganize to plunder more again? Good question.
So, I mean, you can accomplish a whole lot with electoralism. Sure, definitely it's not the fundamental strategy. The fundamental strategy is doing Isaiah's job, reaching the remnant, doing all this stuff, which then ends up leading to some amount of electoral victories in your favor. Now, what could that look like? It could look like, well, hey, we can actually swing this one little gubernatorial race here in our direction, right? Or away from one of the major parties. So we can go in there and we can say, hey, we're going to demand all of these big concessions from you. And if you don't accept, whoever doesn't accept, we'll make sure that they lose, right? That's going to be only temporary, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually the state will be able to try and grasp that power back again. But ultimately, what did you do in that temporary amount of time? Well, you might have saved millions of dollars worth of tax money. You might have saved a bunch of people from getting victimized by the state. That's all very positive. And if you keep doing that over and over and over again, well, the state keeps, it now has this threat against it. It is now losing control piece by piece by piece. And if you have a really powerful remnant out there, a really powerful vanguard out there, well, suddenly every election, every politician has to think about, well, will this policy I'm thinking of, I want to get this policy done, but the libertarians probably won't like that too much. Maybe I should tease back on this a little bit so that the libertarians aren't so pissed off at me. And that would be massively beneficial.
All right, question for Zulu. How do you feel about John Knox? I had to look that one up real quick. I don't know if you're Scottish or Irish. Hell, maybe you're neither. I'm just assuming. But I guess that's the leader of the Scottish Reformation and the founder of the Church of Scotland. I don't know if that would be something of significance in Scotland. Sounds like. Do you have opinions on John Knox?
I don't really. That's the first I've heard of John Knox.
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with the history of the church, I guess.
Do you have cats? All right, now they're getting ridiculous. This will be the last one. That's a good one, sneaks it too. All right, well, I got a bunch, so we're pussy friends. Zulu, it's been good. We'll if any others squeeze in the last moment, I guess while you do plugs or whatever, we can get them in. Recreational nukes. What are your thoughts on recreational nukes? I guess that's a fun one.
Oh, so nuclear weapons is an interesting one. I don't think something like that would come about on the free market. Hopper has a great argument for this in his private production defense. Like weapons of mass destruction, you don't really expect those to come about much. Now, there are legitimate uses of nuclear weapons. For instance, let's say you are on a spaceship and you might get in a fight with another spaceship. Well, what's a great weapon to use against a spaceship? It's actually a nuclear weapon, because it doesn't have the problems that it has on Earth, because there's already way more energy coming from the sun. Like that, it's not a big problem, right, in space. Or there's even like types of spaceships people have theorized about, where basically it fires nukes out the back and uses that to propel it forward. So like there are legitimate uses of weapons, but if you're using it as for mutually assured destruction, then that is an aggression. You're threatening people in the blast radius.
Yeah, I mean, insurance pretty much fixes everything, usually. Yeah. I mean, who the fuck is going to... If you have nothing but private actors in the world, well, you guys are probably going to need insurance for that product, if you want to interact in the normal world. And good luck getting insurance for a nuke without incredibly absorbent prices. Or just a flat-out, no, we won't do that. So, unless you're in space, I guess. All right, well, any more? All right, plugs. Zulu, it was a pleasure having you. Let people know where they can find you at. But yeah, it's cool getting to know you, and be happy to have you on some other time if you ever want to come on. But yeah, let my audience know where they can find you and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. I think it was a great show. You can find me on YouTube. That's my main thing. YouTube.com/Liquid Zulu. Obviously, you could even just look up the video title, Anatomy of the Celebrity, and it'll come up. That's my big one as of late. I also have a free course you can read on liquidzulu.github.io. That course is also linked in my description and everything in my videos. You can read that course for free, or you can pay whatever you want for a video version of that course. And it basically goes over, it's called The Fundamentals of Libertarian Ethics. It goes over basically my entire legal theory. There are some things which I would change about it now, like just slight tweaks. The core thing is correct. It's basically just trying to get to, the modern libertarian theory, how to teach someone that in the shortest amount of energy possible. Because before that, well, what would you do if you wanted to teach someone like proper libertarian theory? All the theory bros know this. You'd have to go, okay, well, read this book, but not that section. That section is actually wrong for reasons X, Y, Z, and then also this book. And you'd have like a half a dozen books by the end. It's like, okay, and then that'll teach you a quarter of it. And then here's the next volume. And it's just way too much. So I just wanted to condense it all down, get it in a form which I was happy with, and, logically build up every step so that you don't have to go off to all these different citations. And in fact, Stephen Kinsella, he said that it looked to be a good course. So if you like Stephen Kinsella, then maybe you'll like the course as well.
Yeah, Stefan's great. I had him on a long time ago. Tilla, one last thing. I guess I missed Tilla in here. It said, it's an easy one. I think I know where you go. Would you support the Second Amendment for Scotland?
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go. The end. All right, no more. There's no more. All right, appreciate it. You have a good one, Zulu. We'll let you go. And hopefully you get that debate with Dave soon. I'll be honest. I told him himself he should. I mean, hell, that was actually what we got upset about. But even it was like, hey, like he talked mad shit. I mean, you've laid out good arguments. I mean, I don't think it's that ridiculous. I mean, but whatever. We'll see. I think you've more than proven your case. We'll see where it goes. Although, maybe give him a little grace. He's at Skankfest right now, so he's definitely not going to debate you like next week or so. But after that, maybe crank it back up again. But I do think I would like to see that happen. I do think it's worth happening. I think you already, Jacob already called dibs on that, I believe. So yeah. I won't throw out my offer. So Jacob, Dave, go on Jacob's show and debate Liquid Zulu. You know my opinions. So, but I do love you, brother, if you're watching this, so don't take it the wrong way. But with that, Zulu, we're out of here. We'll see you, bud. But we're not out of here. The show goes on. We still got about another hour in here. We'll see you, Zulu. You have a good one. But we'll keep moving. Like I said, we have a ton of Epstein stuff to go through. But let's take a minute, roll through the chat. See what you guys, at least say some good mornings to some people. Check in the like. I'll start noticing the people, all the Zulu fans out of here. I'll start seeing my van. See all these ZZ. Good morning, Admetos. Good morning, Debate. Good morning, Axel. Good morning, Panzer. Good morning, Lights. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Pickle. Good morning, HH. Oh my God, I'm going to start just doing the ones I know. Good morning, Bobo. Good morning, Comment Mama. Good morning. And I see you there. I said hi to you. Good morning, Jacob, you beautiful bastard. Is there a chance Dave will come on? No, you missed that. Obviously not. Good morning, King David. Good morning, retardo. Good morning, everybody. I think there's so many of you guys in your day. It's ridiculous. Good morning, Nevsky. I guess you think Zulu got destroyed by Jay Dyer. I never saw that one. I'll take your word for it. Good morning, D-Trell. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Bug Fight. Seeing all the regulars in here. Jacob saying my disagreement with Zulu isn't that he finds areas of disagreement with Dave, but he makes him out to be an enemy. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I guess I didn't just say it to him a minute ago, but I would have. And he was a little bit hyperbolic. He is a little bit hyperbolic, although I think I kind of said that. Like, I feel like it's hyperbolic. I obviously don't agree with those. I obviously don't agree that Dave's a poisoned the movement or something, but I think there are, some critiques in there, and maybe not quite, poison, but could, or maybe something to think about, something to work on. I don't know. Because I think Dave's great, honestly, so. Good morning, Che-Coho. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Atraponos. Good morning, good morning. Oh, here's Jacob saying, me, Jose and I are libertarians who got introduced to Rothbard by Dave, so, we aren't fake libertarians. Well, I guess it depends on how you define it. Although, to be fair, Jacob, the period in time in which we got converted, I guess if you would say it that way, by Dave was during his early days. At least I don't know about for you, but prior to 2020 is kind of when that happened to me. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to make the argument that he did, start courting fake libertarians by going on big shows and softening messages or something, if that's your argument, then to be fair, it doesn't apply to us. We're the real shit, dog. Apparently objective agorism is a thing. I was not aware of that. All right. Good morning. Hey, say what now? All right, guys. We're going to move on. Milk stops 30.6. Don't forget that, though. All right. Let's go ahead and get to the bottom of the chat. So from now on, sorry, any of the ones I missed in the past, we'll start paying attention to everything below, right about here. Right below. Why can't I think of my producer's name right now? Not Jacob. Damn it. Too many names. Whatever. I'll think. Why can't I think of your name? That's shitty. That's really bad. I'm having a brain fart right now. But all right, Rise to Liberty. What the fuck? Damn it! I know his name. Why am I doing this? It's literally forgetting my one of my close friends' names or something. We see each other every week. That's weird. This is really embarrassing. All right, let's get into some Epstein stuff. Later, I'll yell the name out. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm a retard. That's what I forgot. All right, let's go ahead and get into some Epstein stuff. We have quite a bit. It is, as I said at the beginning, it's some bombshell shit, it looks like. I haven't fully parsed through all this, obviously, because that's what the show is. I guess I didn't, for the new people, I guess now would be the time to introduce you to what this show really is. I mean, we do guests occasionally, but this is an info dump. I basically just bookmark a fuckload of shit that I find interesting, that I want to cover, that I want to learn more about, or if I want to prep for a show I'm going on. For example, I'm going on Eric Hunley's show to talk about Terrence Yeakey tonight. That's why I'll be reading Terrence Yeakey here in about 30, 45 minutes or so, one of the articles on it, just to prep for that. So this is an info dump. Usually it's stuff I haven't gone through. So we're going through together, hanging out, kind of doing some homework, and we cover the stories that are the new things going on. Not always new, sometimes old, but that's what it is. It's an info dump show, and I like to hang out with my audience. That's what it is. But let's go ahead and get into this. Leaked emails reveal how Jeffrey Epstein and Israeli officials built African surveillance state. This is Jose Nino over at Headline USA. It says newly released documents reveal Jeffrey Epstein played a critical role facilitating Israeli intelligence operations in Cote d'Ivoire, working alongside former Defense Minister Ehud Barak to broker mass surveillance deals with the embattled West African nation, according to a report by Drop Site News. The revelations come from leaked emails released by the Handala hacking group and documents published by the U.S. House Oversight Committee last month, including Epstein's personal emails and appointment calendars from 2012 to 2013. After a disputed 2010 presidential election, it triggered violence in Côte d'Ivoire. President Alassane Ouattara sought to consolidate power following a French and United Nations military intervention just days after Ouattara announced foiling a coup attempt in June 2012. He traveled to Jerusalem to meet Barak and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about counter-terrorism cooperation. That same day, according to House Oversight documents, Epstein met with Ouattara's son, David Germain Ouattara, in New York City. 3 months later, Epstein hosted Ouattara's niece, Nina Kita, before going directly to meet Barak at the Regency Motel. or hotel. Rokita had traveled on Epstein's plane as a young fashion model in Jean-Luc Brunel's agency. In October 2012, Epstein traveled to Africa, instructing his assistants to arrange stops in Cote d'Ivoire, Angola, and Senegal. 2 weeks after this trip, Ivory Coast Interior Minister was in Tel Aviv meeting with Barack about a bilateral security accord. According to Dropsite News, Epstein wrote to Barack about the opportunities civil unrest created, saying, with civil unrest exploding and the desperation for those in power, isn't this perfect? Barack replied, you're right in a way, but not simple to transform it into a cash flow. After leaving his defense minister position in 2013, Barack continued negotiating overtly with Cote d'Ivoire. One day after his departure, he received materials from French-Israeli security contractor MF Group, detailing plans for a mobile and internet surveillance center and video monitoring system in Abidjan. Communications between Barack and his brother-in-law Doron Kohan used cryptic language referring to players by initials and arranging calls when Cohen would be in the car alone to avoid being overheard. Progress stalled after a UN report discovered dozens of crates of Israeli ammunition at the presidential palace, leading to extended arms embargo enforcement. Barack then contacted key Israeli security figures with Cote d'Ivoire connections, including Amos Malka, former head of Israeli intelligence, and Michael Fetterman, chairman of military technology giant Elbit Systems. Now, we already actually covered this story, I believe, last week, but I did want to quickly go through it, at least the first handful of paragraphs in the story, just to kind of to jog your memory before we go into these other ones. So that one kind of shows how essentially 4 Israeli officials, he was assisting them in creating surveillance states over in Africa. And then here we have right here from Murtaza Hussein, who's been putting out some great work on this. He says, in addition to emails from Barack's inbox, the information... Oh, never mind. I'm going to read the original tweet here. Said an Israeli military intelligence officer lived at Jeffrey Epstein's home in Manhattan on multiple occasions, including while he was an aide to then Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak. Yoni Koren was a senior AMAN officer with decades of experience in Israeli security establishment and stayed at Epstein's home. Emails show Epstein wired Koren money, while Koren acted as intermediary between Israeli and U.S. intelligence. Link in... Oh, I don't need to read that part. But yeah, let's go through the piece here, and then we'll get into what I think is the real bombshell that's going to follow it up, which kind of goes into some emails that just got dropped about particularly pertaining to Trump. Some of those redacted Trump things are coming out. So this is from Ryan Grimm and Murtaza Hussein. So with the looming end of the U.S. government shutdown amid a deal in the Senate, the House will soon be swearing in Adelita Grijalva to her rightful seat from Arizona after a historic delay at the hands of Speaker Mike Johnson, taking direction from President Donald Trump, all aimed at blocking her from becoming the final signature needed to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files. By the way, if I sound retarded, I just realized it's totally Jacob. It's Jacob. That's what it is. I'm retarded. They both have the same name, don't you? That's what it is. That's what fucked me up. I was just like, I swear, there's no way he has the same name. And I was just having a weird brain fart. So sorry. I think, right? Am I right? Someone in chat. I'm like, what is wrong with my brain lately? Let me see. I'm looking through the chat. I'm sure he corrected me. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the chat right now. Man, the chat's way too bumping, so my bad. All right, getting back into the post. Sorry, my bad. In mid-October, the House Oversight Committee released an interview with former U.S. prosecutor Alex Acosta, who told the panel that, contrary to widespread public reporting, he had never told Steve Bannon that Epstein belonged to intelligence. Acosta denied ever discussing Epstein with Bannon and claimed to have no knowledge as to whether he was or was not a member of the intel community. Yet, along with Acosta's interview, the House panel also released a new cache of documents from Epstein's estate containing direct evidence of Epstein's link to Israeli intelligence. Epstein's personal calendars reveal that a senior Israeli intelligence officer with personal ties to former CIA Director Leon Panetta lived at Epstein's Manhattan apartment for multiple stretches between 2013 and 2016. When cross-referenced with emails leaked from the inbox of former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, a portrait emerges of Epstein at the nexus of high-ranking intel officials in both the U.S. and Israel. This is the fourth piece in DropSite's ongoing series on Jeffrey Epstein's role in brokering intelligence deals for Israel. Now, we did mention in a previous one. Now, if you did miss that, this is from like a Handala hacking group, which I believe this has been up for a long-ass time. So it's just been available online, waiting for journalists to dig into. And, of course, none of the mainstream entities dug into it, so that's why we have DropSite digging into it. In the first, we exposed Epstein's role in brokering a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia. In the second, we identified Epstein's effort to set up a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syria civil war. In the third, we showed Epstein's role as a key facilitator of a security agreement between Israel and the West African nation of Côte d'Ivoire. Meanwhile, we're left wondering why the rest of the world, which has demonstrated no lack of excitement when it comes to the saga of Jeffrey Epstein, has all of a sudden lost its reporting capacity in the face of realms of publicly available newsworthy documents. A question for editors reading this newsletter: what are you doing? From a place of competition, we are glad the media are sitting on their collective hands, and we're proud to have broken this piece of stories, which give us a glimpse of a world that is often hidden from public view. But it's also a topic that would benefit from the collective attention of our national media. Here's hoping some will join in. Either way, we'll continue the work and are grateful for the support of readers who make it possible. All right, let's get into the actual body of it. An Israeli intelligence officer stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 occasions, including once in February 2013 while staying as senior aide to then Israeli Minister of Defense Ehud Barak. Yoni Koren made his intel career working in covert operations alongside the Mossad and remained a lieutenant colonel in reserve duty after he officially left the intelligence directorate. He stayed at Epstein's apartment again for 2 weeks in October 2014 and for a third time for 10 more days in September 2015. DropSite compiled evidence of these stays from schedules released by the House Oversight Committee last month and Barak's hacked emails originally released by the Handala hack team and later shared by Distributed Denial of Secrets. On all 3 trips, Koren appeared to be conducting official or unofficial business. A Times of Israel article from late January 2013, a few weeks before Koren's first documented stay, identifies him as still actively serving as a bureau chief for the Israeli Minister of Defense that month. After Barak's retirement from government, Koren continued to serve as an informal intermediary between the American and Israeli intelligence communities, with Barak acting as his handler. Email records show Barak using Koren as an intermediary to exchange information with AMAN, the Israeli Military Intelligence Directorate. Koren was also active in Epstein and Barak's efforts to source cybersecurity startups from the technology research units of AMAN, demonstrating how enmeshed in Israeli spy networks he remained. In February 2015, leaked emails show Barak sending Epstein bank details for funds to be wired to Koren's Citibank account. The purpose of the wire transfer is not known. DropSite was unable to confirm if the funds were successfully transferred, but the bank transfer information was followed by an unusually cryptic communication between Barak and Koren regarding handoff of a physical bank card. Koren helped arrange a private tour of the White House and Pentagon for Barak and his grandchildren, which took place a few days later. The Pentagon trip was coordinated by Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff of the CIA and the DOW now, as well as the ex-husband of CNN host Dana Bash. Koren and Bash helped to exchange messages and arrange meetings between their respective bosses, Barak and Leon Panetta, the former CIA director and Secretary of Defense. On February 14, 2015, Barak sent a note to Epstein. "Hi, Jeff. Will you be in New York during the coming week?" Barak wrote. Epstein replied, "I'm flying back to New York Tuesday to meet with you." Epstein's personal calendars, released by the U.S. House Oversight Committee last month, show that they ultimately met on February 19th at 5 p.m. But the two men had a second last-minute meeting that wasn't reflected on calendars released by Congress. According to hacked emails, Barak arranged an urgent appointment with Epstein on February 20th, writing, "Are you still in town? Can we meet again for 30 minutes today or tomorrow?" Epstein's meetings had run late the previous night, and he'd already missed his flight to Paris, but he agreed to meet. 3 days later, on February 23rd, Barak sent Epstein an email titled Yoni Account Info, containing wire transfer details for a Citibank account belonging to Itzhak Koren. The purpose of the wire transfer is not apparent from the email records. That Saturday, February 28th, Barak sent an unusual email to Koren containing detailed instructions to pick up a package from the Hyatt 48 LEX hotel in Manhattan's Midtown East. According to the email, Barak purchased red Beats by Dre headphones on February 21st or 4th, the day after sending Epstein the bank details. Barak instructed Yoni to collect a package containing the headphones from the hotel and return them to an Apple store on the Upper West Side. According to Barak's message, attached to the box was an envelope with a receipt and a bank card. Barack wrote Corin, to get a refund in cash, you'll need the card. Email me when you collect it. Barack's request was highly unusual. For one thing, it was in English. Across hundreds of emails exchanged between Barack and Corin in a leaked email dataset, the two men communicated almost exclusively in Hebrew. It was also unheard of for Barack to request Yoni to run a mundane errand, and the timing of the exchange also raises a red flag. After purchasing the headphones and leaving them for Corin, Barack was scheduled to leave the country. Corin seemed to immediately understand Barack's request, and he agreed, writing back in Hebrew, "No problem, what's her name?" Barack replied with a woman's name, Rachel Levin. That name doesn't appear anywhere else in Barack's emails, and it's unclear to what he was referring to. Okay, so let's look at this email real quick, because it's just a look at it as opposed to being like described. So it says, Yoni, hi, the package will wait for you from Monday morning at the front desk. In the package, you'll find a pair of Beats studio earphones, which I bought on February 24th. This is clearly coded language. It costs $379, and you can return it until March 8th. Attached to the red box, you'll find an envelope with the invoice receipt. In order to be able to refund in cash, you'll also find my credit card, which made the payment. Please let me know an email when you get from the hotel. I mean, I don't even really know what. It is weird, and it's a weird thing. I mean, I guess maybe it just gave him some headphones. But I don't know. Is that what Beats cost? Do they cost $380? Is that correct? You guys let me know. I don't think they're that expensive. I know they're expensive, but that seems not legit. The next Monday, Corin collected the package and reported to Barack that the card had been credited with the funds. Barack instructed Corin to keep the card, and they made arrangements to meet in Israel. March 12th, after a brief trip to London, Barack landed in Tel Aviv and immediately emailed Corin asking to speak on the phone. Now here's a picture of Corin, the intel agent who was staying in Epstein's house for numerous times and being like some sort of liaison. And then you have Barack over here. Sometimes an earphone is just an earphone, but Barack and Corin had good reason to write emails in coded language. Documents leaked by Edward Snowden just over a year prior revealed that the two men were major counter-intel targets for the U.S. and the NSA had been snooping on their messages. Corin's intel career began in the research division of AMAN, the IDF's military intelligence directorate, eventually rising through the ranks to become a senior officer. In 1985, Corin worked on a covert campaign with Mossad to help Syrian intelligence kidnap PLO operatives traveling from Cyprus to Lebanon. Corin described the operation in an interview with Israeli New York Times journalist Ronan Bergman for his book Rise and Kill First. When Barack became the chief of staff of the IDF in the 90s, Corin became his bureau chief, managing Barack's schedules and operations. He was also an assistant to Israel's military attaché in Washington, coordinating senior Pentagon contacts like Colin Powell, then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. After Barack left the IDF, Corin headed Barack's staff as Interior Minister, then Foreign Minister, then Defense Minister. So this Corin guy got all the way up to Defense Minister. That's wild. Barack served as Prime Minister from 1999 to 2001. After Barack's retirement, Corin was a covert fixer in Washington who enjoyed special access to senior national security figures, including Leon Panetta and his security advisor, Jeremy Bash. Panetta, who went straight from director of the CIA to defense secretary under former President Barack Obama, was Barack's U.S. equivalent. As soon as Barack left the Israeli government, Corin became a go-between for Barack and the American-Israeli intelligence communities. March 25th, 2013, 1 week after Barack left his defense minister post, Corin forwarded a personal invitation from Jeremy Bash to participate on a panel on the Arab Spring at the Panetta Institute for Public Policy in Monterey, California. In an email thread with Bash, Barack agreed to come to California and express his eagerness to discuss, in quotes, possible opportunities with Leon Panetta and Yoni Corin. After the Monterey event, Barack and his wife drove north to the San Francisco Bay Area for a private meeting with Oracle founder Larry Ellison at his mansion in Woodside, a massive estate modeled after a 16th century Japanese emperor's palace. In the Evernote app, Barack bookmarked a conversation with Ellison's chief of staff with the tags @private and #initiatives. The following year, according to Epstein's personal calendars released by the House, Corin stayed at Epstein's spare apartment again for the first 2 weeks of October 2014. The calendar released by the House committee reads, reminder, Yoni in apartment September 30th through October 13th. In the weeks preceding his stay at Epstein's apartment, Corin maintained contact with spies and MAN, despite his supposed status as a private citizen. On September 14th, 2014, Barack and Corin exchanged emails about a Haaretz opinion column titled A Strange Man, Al-Sisi then asserted Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi offered to give Palestinians a huge plot of land in the Sinai Peninsula adjacent to Gaza. but Mahmoud Abbas rejected the idea. Barak asked Coren to confirm with someone in Amman if the report was true. Coren returned a few hours later with a response, "It never happened." The email suggests Coren worked as a two-way intermediary, with Barak hinting at Coren to pass a message back to contacts in Israel. When Haaretz published a second column about El-Sisi's alleged offer, the next day Barak wrote Coren, "Second time? Probably someone should deny it." On October 6, 2014, while staying in Epstein's apartment, Coren forwarded Barak, keep in mind this is while he's in the apartment, forwarded Barak a message from Bash, Panetta's henchman, the CIA. Panetta is the CIA guy, containing details of Panetta's travel dates to promote his book Worthy Fights, about his service as CIA Director and Secretary of Defense under President Obama. The message was taken by Barak as a proposal by Coren to meet with Panetta in New York. He expressed that he would be unable to make it in time. Barak later asked Coren for help getting special access to secured areas of the White House and Pentagon. On December 8, 2014, Barak emailed Coren to inform of his plans to take his daughter and 2 grandkids to Washington, D.C. In the spring, writing, "I want to take them to the White House and get there something more than the regular public tourist visit. Please see if you can be of help." That's weird. Bash took care of the arrangements for Barak and his family to get access to secure facilities in the White House and the Pentagon. Bash was by then a private citizen, and he had started his own consulting company, Beacon Global Strategies, but he still enjoyed high-level access to the White House and U.S. defense establishment. Yoni helped Barak pass along his family passport details to Beacon so they could receive clearance. Barak, his daughter, and his 2 grandchildren visited the White House and Pentagon on March 31st. They received a Secret Service escort, a guided tour from Yael Lampert, Special Assistant to President Obama and the National Security Council Director for the Levant, Israel, and Egypt. Lampert later negotiated the largest military aid package in American history, a 10-year, $38 billion package for Israel in 2016. The Pentagon visit was coordinated by Eric Lynn, another senior advisor to Panetta, who arranged for a private tour by Laura Updegrove, the Defense Department's Israel County Director. A few weeks after the visit in April 2015, Lynn emailed Barak details about fundraising for his congressional campaign in Florida's 13th District. Barak forwarded the message to Coren asking what should be done. Coney replied, "You don't have to do anything." Lynn lost. The seat is now held by Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who spearheads the House effort to release Epstein files. Lynn did not respond to requests for comment. Yoni Coren died of cancer on January 8, 2023. His career of service to Israel ran exactly parallel to Barak's, albeit in the shadows. He remained one of Barak's most trusted advisors and closest confidants throughout his military and civilian careers. Barak did not respond to requests for comment, neither did Jeremy Bash. On Coren's passing, Barak wrote a eulogy for Coren, calling him a talented intelligence officer with endless loyalty to the role, the IDF, and the state, a brave man who knew no fear, even when he stood in front of the forces of evil. And that's the article, which, I mean, that's wild shit, dude. That is some wild stuff right there, and it's about to get wilder in our next story. House Dems release emails of Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Trump. All right, it's been a minute. I want to pop in the chat, see what you guys are going to say. We'll check in. Tony Chin says, "Can someone tell me?" He says, "I'm new here. Can someone describe what the hell the show is and who the hell the host is?" Tony Chin, I've seen you in the chat a million times. What are you talking about? I see you here all the time. What kind of weird... Okay. This is the No Way Jose podcast, The Morning Top. What are you doing to me, Tony? Are you losing your mind? Justin Valentine says, "We may get a ton of redacted docs if that woman is sworn in today." Yeah, I believe Adelita Grayalva is supposed to be sworn in today. I don't know the specifics of the bill. Maybe we'll come in. We'll have probably something to talk about tomorrow with that, perhaps. I think we may have talked about someone already dead last night. I can't remember. But yeah, the Democrats have caved. Which is kind of weird in and of its own, especially when they're in this weirdly strong political position right now. So yeah. Good morning, JC. Good to see you here. Good morning, Alien Big Cat. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Smarty McFly. Justin says, "Not surprised to see Dana Bash's name in there. What a cunt." Marty thinks Epstein is alive. Yeah. I would not be surprised at all. Beats by Dre did 9/11, says Tony Chin. Biblical Ernie says, if you're an idiot and don't shop around, that's what they cost sometimes for the Beats. Okay. Really? Okay. I guess I'll take your word for it. A Beats for almost $400. That sounds, I don't think I've ever paid more than I've probably never paid more than $40 for headphones. And if it, actually me, myself, I've probably never spent more than 20. But there's been a couple times my wife will be like, here you go, and get me the nice thing. And I'm like, I would be fine with the cheapest piece of shit. Headphones are headphones, but whatever. Some people like that stuff. Good morning, Mulgara. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Real John Doe. Good morning. Just Valentine. My Sony $40 Sony headphones almost blow my eardrums out. That's all I need. Yeah, you don't need much. Good morning, Marnamat. Good to see you here. Good morning, good morning. Chat feels a little aggressive days of fire picks. He does. It's less of our people, some new people. I know they're feeling me out, I guess. I don't know. What's up, Qbert? Good morning, good morning. Some of the Zulu people get into it. Nevsky, that's funny. Good morning, Tower Gang NPC. Good morning, good morning. Justin Valentine says Dana Bash is one of the most obvious intel assets in the media, and that's saying something. He's saying I'm going to love the chat right now, says Nevsky. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a fun chat. People are going nuts in here. Good morning, Cultural Swine Media. Epstein is definitely in Valhalla, 100%, and that's where Cash is going, and they can do gay stuff in heaven in Valhalla. Good morning, IO421. All right, and he says actually Valhalla might just be one of his properties. So that's funny you say that, because there actually is a weird little thread of idea of it's a weird little thread of, I don't know, conspiracy that there's this weird place called Valhalla and what was it, Norway or something weird, and it's got some weird spooky connections, and some people were like, oh, that's where Charlie Kirk is. So Cash was telling us something. All right, let's get into this final. Let's get into this final Epstein piece for this segment. House Dems release emails of Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump. So Democrats in the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform have released a set of emails between deceased sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, and author Michael Wolff, all of which mention President Donald Trump. The first email is from April 2021, when Epstein told Maxwell about Trump saying at his house with one of his alleged victims whose name was redacted. It says, in quotes, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Victim, and it says, "spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there," Epstein wrote, to which Maxwell replied, "I've been thinking about that." While the email lacks critical details, it does call into question Maxwell's interview with the Justice Department this year when she told the DOJ that she never witnessed Trump commit any wrongdoing. However, the House Republicans immediately responded to the email saying the victim referenced therein is Virginia Giuffre, someone who also said she never saw Trump commit any wrongdoing. It says, why did Democrats cover up the name when the state didn't redact it in the redacted documents provided to the committee? It's because the victim, Virginia Giuffre, publicly said that she never witnessed wrongdoing by President Trump. The House Oversight Committee said on X, Democrats are trying to create a fake narrative to slander President Trump. You definitely don't need a fake one for that these days. The second email is between Epstein and anti-Trump author Wolff in December 2015 when Trump's 2016 presidential campaign was in its early stages. Trump was set to appear on CNN at the night of December 15th, 2025, and Wolff said he heard that a reporter was going to ask Trump about his relationship with Epstein. When Wolff informed Epstein of this, Epstein asked about how he should respond to what Trump tells CNN. That's weird. I gotta say that's a weird. It's weird that Wolff's telling him these things. I knew they had some sort of relationship, but I don't know. Wolff gave Epstein advice. I think you should let Trump hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit to you. Or if it really looks like you could win, you could save him generating a debt, Wolff wrote. Oh, jeez, gross. That's that kind of, I'm not gonna lie, not that I was like someone who was what's the word? Not that I like necessarily had a high opinion of Wolff. I knew there was people who thought that there was some shady, and I've always kind of been his connection to Epstein or whatever the fuck it is. He supposed, I think, was writing a book, and that's why he has all these hundreds of hours of interviews or something. He's a little bit of a sketchy character, but nobody sued him yet, so Now, if that email is legit, I don't know, that's something about that's gross. Like especially if you know the things about Epstein, and then you're like, oh, just let him, just use it for this political. I don't know, something about that's particularly gross. Essentially, the idea of like, oh well, but it does imply that what he's saying is that like Trump has probably been on the plane or to the House because it gives you political currency. You can hang him, is what it says, in a way that would potentially generate a benefit. So he's like, hey, just let him say that shit, and then just keep that. So basically, what sounds like what Michael Wolff was suggesting is like, no, just hey, if he denies it, then cool, whatever. Let it just now you can hold on to that. That's blackmail. That's leverage you have on him, I guess you could say. Political currency. There's other ways to say fucking blackmail. That's what that is. It continues on. He says, of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gone a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. So essentially he points out it's one or the other, and he says if Trump denies it, then hey, congrats, you have blackmailing this guy. And if not, it's kind of like, whatever, I guess he covered for you. The final email is from Epstein to Wolff on January 31st, 2019, after Trump had already been president for 2 years and about 7 months before Epstein would be arrested. The two discussed the reports that Trump kicked Epstein out of his resort, Mar-a-Lago. No, here it is. It's Mar-a-Lago, or redacted. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls. He asked Elaine to stop. Okay, well, that's interesting. He asked Elaine to stop. Of course he knew about the girls. All right. Upon publishing the above-mentioned emails, Democrats called for the Trump administration to release the full set of what's now referred to commonly as the Epstein files. So, now I will say, who knows? Maybe this is somehow out of context. That doesn't look good, though. Trump and Epstein were once considered friends, but they had a falling out in 2004 over a bidding war for a mansion near Mar-a-Lago. Trump also kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago in 2007 for harassing a daughter of a member there, an event that Epstein may have been referencing in his email to Wolff. I didn't know that. I always thought people conflated those two things. I didn't realize those were two separate occasions. No, never mind. Sometimes they attribute the 2007 one to the 2004 occurrence, I guess. Additionally, Wolff reported last November that Epstein was afraid of Trump up until his final days when he died in prison. According to Wolff, Epstein believed that Trump caused him to be initially investigated by law enforcement in 2005 after the two had a fight over the property near Mar-a-Lago, an allegation that, if true, could arguably be seen as a heroic move by Trump regardless of his motives. This is from Ken over at Headline USA. All right, let's roll through the chat, and then we'll do the Yeakey piece. And I think we might have time to at least get through a knife safety's thread that he dropped for us a while back. Oh, here he is. Epstein is spooning Michael Tracy right now. This is knife safety. Yeah, probably. I think they're snuggling. But let's pop in. Hey, what's up, Gerald? I don't know if I said good morning to you. Let me see who else is in here. Anybody got anything to say worthwhile? Oh, well, no, just chitty-chatting amongst yourselves. Okay, well, let's move on to the Wendy painting piece here. The Terrence Yeakey piece, The Strange Death of Terry Yeakey. This is a little bit of a shorter one. But kind of a brush up my memory just a tiny bit. And I'll probably read the Hoffman article later, too. I just didn't want to subject you guys to the Hoffman article because that takes multiple episodes to knock out. And plus, I think I already done this on the show once. Maybe next time we'll do the Craig Roberts reading, but we'll do the Wendy painting one today. So Strange Death of Terry Yeakey, Unanswered Questions Haunt Family of Oklahoma City Bombing. First by Wendy S. Painting, October 2nd, 2009. That's the year I graduated high school. In May 11th, 1996, the New York Times ran a story with the headline, A Policeman Who Rescued Four in Bombing Kills Himself. Sergeant Terrence Yeakey, Oklahoma City Police Department, who was 30 years old and was about to receive the police department's Medal of Valor for his heroic rescue efforts the day of the Oklahoma City bombing, which occurred on April 19th, 1995. Yeakey was the first to arrive on the scene that terrible day and saved the lives of countless people from the rubble of the building and the horrific effects of the explosion. The article says Yeakey committed suicide, claiming that he was living in emotional pain because he could not do more to help the people injured in the bombing, and that he was suffering from intense survival guilt, which he was unable to manage. But others in Oklahoma City, including the family of Terrence Yeakey, claim that his death was not a suicide at all, but a brutal murder, and indicate that local law enforcement were complicit in covering up this murder. On September 26, 2009, the Yeakey family spoke out for the first time on video for an interview with journalists from Radio Free Oklahoma and an American Studies PhD student from the University of Buffalo, who's writing her dissertation on the 95 Oklahoma City bombing. That's Wendy. What these researchers found was that the facts surrounding Yeakey's death are quite disturbing, and that the treatment of the Yeakey family in the aftermath of the death was beyond appalling. It is important to note how exactly Yeakey is supposed to have killed himself. He was said to have slit his wrists and neck, causing him to nearly bleed to death in his car, and then miraculously climbed over a barbed wire fence. He then was purported to have walked over a mile's distance through a nearby field, eventually shooting himself in the side of the head at an unusual angle. Startling, by the way, the angle was, I believe, the left side, and it was like kind of like a downward angle. I mean, it was like a theoretically possible one, but it's just an odd way, like that you would like. And he was a big guy. Anyways, startling, no weapon was found at the scene of the body, no investigation was conducted, no fingerprints taken, and no interviews with family members or friends were had to try and determine why Yeakey would have been suicidal, or if he had, in fact, been suicidal at all. Instead, the conclusion that Yeakey's death was a suicide was reached immediately without an autopsy. Yeakey had witnessed things during his response to the bombing which did not agree with the official version of events touted by the national media and law enforcement at that time. Yeakey was in the process of collecting evidence which supported and documented the inconsistencies he witnessed the morning of the bombing at the scene itself. Far from being suicidal, Yeakey was in the process of achieving some major life goals. He had just been offered a job with the FBI in Dallas and was planning on taking the job and moving there with his sister and brother-in-law. Yeakey, a military veteran who had served in Saudi Arabia, was also a 7-year veteran of the OKC Police Department and had just been promoted to sergeant in the OKC PD. Just prior to his death, he had been awarded the key to the Oklahoma City for his heroism during the bombing. Additionally, Yeakey had reconciled with his ex-wife. Despite all this, Yeakey was living under constant scrutiny for his refusal to go along with official versions of events, and because of his refusal to change his story about what he saw the day of the bombing, causing him to suffer great persecution from his brothers in law enforcement. Although he is looking forward to his new job with the FBI, Yeakey is described by his family as a man who was also living in great fear at this time and was preoccupied with the harassment he was being subjected to on a daily basis. When Yeakey showed up to his oldest sister's home one evening, he was physically ill. When she attempted to take him to the emergency room, Yeakey would not allow this because he told her, "They can find me there." Yeakey never told her who they were in an attempt to protect her. Yeakey left his sister's house that evening and was found dead the next day in a remote field in El Reno, Oklahoma. Immediately after his family was notified of Terrence Yeakey's death, they insisted that they did not believe Yeakey had killed himself. Their conclusion was based on the manner of death, Yeakey's personality, his recent statements about the future, and the lack of investigation and autopsy. At first, they tried to get answers. Why wasn't there a proper investigation? Where was the weapon he shot himself with? Why wasn't an autopsy allowed? As they asked questions in the following days, they would sometimes be approached by others in the police department who told them in no uncertain terms, but off the record, that Yeakey had been murdered. As a result of their inquiries, they were harassed and followed by Oklahoma City police and others. Unmarked cars sat in front of their homes for hours, and this stalking was caught on video by the family. Shortly after his death, Yeakey's ex-wife had her home broken into and a balloon was left in her house. Written on the balloon in black market was the words, "We know where you are." This harassment and surveillance had a chilling effect on the surviving family and on their inquiries into Terrence's death, which were in effect shut down until now, 14 years after the fact. Yeakey's 92-year-old grandma, Mary Koikandala, says it is important that she knows who killed her grandson and implores anyone who can help her. "From my heart, I want something to happen to show he had no right to be killed. His life was taken away for nothing." His oldest sister, Vicky Yeakey, speaking out again after all these years, states that she knew as soon as she was told by the OKCPD that Yeakey had committed suicide that it was untrue. "I screamed out, 'He didn't take his life. Someone murdered him.' Yet detectives told her that she was crazy and that she watched too much television. I had just seen him the night before. He was mentally fine. I wanted answers that night." But she says they rushed her through the paperwork, all the while telling her she was crazy. She asked, who was he running from? Who was he trying to protect? "I'm doing this interview to reach out to the world, to anyone that can help." Another sister, LaShawn Hargrove, says, "He was an awesome older brother. He was always all about his work. He was serious about being a cop." When she received news of his death, she said she dropped the phone and began to sob. She felt nauseous. She needed to get to her family. Later, OKCPT would approach her and say, "Sorry for your loss." Soon after, she says, the family was told that they need to keep our mouths shut, and were continuously told that the death was a suicide. She feels that her brother's death deserves answers and an investigation that were never provided. "I want justice for his life. He needs to have his story told. I wish I had him back." When Yeakey's mother received a call notifying her of the death, she was told by the OKCPD not to drive anywhere and that a car would come to pick her up. This is around 10 p.m., but by 1 a.m., the promised transportation had not arrived. In fact, they never showed up for Yeakey's grieving mother. No one ever came. Yeakey's mother says that for the last 14 years, she has been going over and over something I don't believe to be true. "I believe it to be murder. I don't know who did it. That's why we need answers. You need to put your child to rest, and without knowing what happened, we can't. I vow that I'll never give up. I need answers. If there's anyone who could help, I would appreciate it." The family says the death of Yeakey is a taboo subject in Oklahoma City. They're just saying, if you don't want the Terry Yeakey done to you, keep your mouth shut. Yeakey is not the only suspicious death which has occurred due to the attempt to find answers about the 95 Oklahoma City bombing. It's not the only one to be called a suicide. The strange and grisly death of Kenneth Trendu being another. The suspicious death of Kenneth Trendu at the Oklahoma City Federal Transfer Center in August 95 will be ruled a suicide despite the opinion of the medical examiner. After examining the body of this brother, it became clear to attorney Jesse Trendu that his brother had been tortured and murdered. Jesse had received chilling information from Timothy McVeigh, convicted and executed for his role in the 95 bombing, that his brother's murder was related to the bombing and its subsequent misinvestigation. Subsequently, Jesse began a quest to determine why exactly his brother died, leading him to file many Freedom of Information Act requests about the bombing and related matters. After filing a wrongful death lawsuit, the Trendu family was rewarded $1.1 million for emotional distress caused by the authorities' mishandling of the death. On September 28, 2009, attorney Jesse Trendu made national news when portions of surveillance tapes of the bombing were begrudgingly released by the FBI under the orders of a federal judge. Like Jesse Trendu and those who lost family members in the Oklahoma City bombing, the surviving family of Terrence Yeakey also seeks answers which they feel will help them achieve closure, justice, and peace in mind. And with that in mind, I guess on the off chance that this somehow reaches the ears of anyone who has anything, whether you were, at the Oklahoma City bombing, whether you saw something, know somebody, you're a relative of Terrence Yeakey or whatever, I'd be more than happy to hear your story and to help to find those responsible for this. I mean, the likelihood of that is probably pretty slim. But I do think these people deserve answers. But with that, I will be going on Eric Hunley's show tonight to talk about that. I don't think it's live or anything. It's pre-recorded. Although I'll also have, for my patrons, I'll be recording an episode with Eric Hunley. So there'll be two separate episodes going on tonight. I'll be recording with Eric for the first one on my show, and then after that, we'll do an episode on his show. So this will be likely mostly what we're talking about Terry Yeakey and maybe tying in other things. But yeah, so I figured take this moment to kind of dig back into that. But let's roll through the chat, see what you guys got to say, and then I think we have time to finally get to Knife Safety Plus's thread about how he thinks he didn't even Tyler Robinson wouldn't even have had to disassemble that 30-06, that Mauser. Instead, he could have hit it in another way. We'll go into that. And then we just might have time to make more fun of Steve Baker, the guy. I'm undecided on whether he glows or it's the boomerishness or if it's just slop. It's really hard to tell. But with that, let's roll through the chat. Let's see what you guys got to say. Justin Trendu, Yeakey was murdered, or Justin Valentine, I don't know why I just called you Trendu, says Yeakey was murdered. In fact, he was overkilled, like Trendu. I agree. Cultural Swine Media, this has the Clinton method written all over it. You are not wrong. Bobo, I still do not have the P.O. box set up. Sorry, I have a million things going. Eventually, one of these days, I'll have a P.O. box. I almost had a P.O. box a while ago. We'll get it. We'll get there. We'll get there. In the meantime, send me money, people, over there. Justin, the overkill is a signature. They want someone to know who did it and why, no other reason to do it. Nope. Exactly. You're right. You are correct. I forget the specific details. I'll be better at brushing up on them tonight after I go through Hoffman's article. But yeah, it's definitely overkill. What was it? I forget the amount of liters of blood. It was like the amount of blood they found in the car was enough to, in some circumstances, kill somebody, but it was like essentially enough to at least be like you'd be fading in and out of consciousness. The idea that he went, I think it was something on the lowest end, like a half mile away through all sorts of fences and rough terrain, that he somehow dragged himself through that. Yeah, a little ridiculous. Definitely overkill. Bobo says John McAfee didn't kill himself, that an anarchy capitalist was killed in prison. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. You should do a segment on John McAfee's supposed suicide. I don't know. I never put much stock into that. The little bit I dug into it never seemed to be much there. I mean, if there's someone who wants to come on the show who has a good presentation on that topic, I'd be happy to, I guess. But all right, let's get into knife safety's thread here. Give me a second. I'm actually going to take it down and bring it back up real quick because I think there is audio at some point here. So there we go. The audio was all screwed up. Here we go. Let's get into knife safety plus is his thread he made last week. We talked about this. We talked to him on the chat on the show. He was talking about how he thinks that Tyler Robinson could have theoretically concealed that 30-06 because that's kind of a big snafu and like how this all works. Like how could he even logistically have pulled off this Charlie Kirk killing with a 30-06 Mauser and the way they said he did it? Most people assume there has to be some sort of disassembly, which then runs into a whole host of other problems, as we've talked about on this show, because, for example, the gun is found elsewhere with the supposed ammo that has the inscribed thing on it, including the spent casing. Like they were specific about that, the spent casing. So they're like, but then you have to like disassemble it. So you're like, what did he stop to collect it off the ground? I don't know. It just is. You get into like the ridiculousness of having to disassemble it. Then it's like it needs a cotter key, I believe. It needs like a whole it's not something you can just. It's not like an AR where you just like hit the takedown pin and it's like and like just like nothing. You can't just do it by hand. It's a whole to do. But without any more ado, we'll go and get into it. It says no assembly required from our homie Knife Safety Plus. It says Tyler Robinson did not need to disassemble the alleged rifle used in the Charlie Kirk assassination. It says a lot of internet detectives have scrutinized the rifle used by Robinson, alleging that particular rifle model could not be concealed without disassembly. Using publicly available information, I hope to demonstrate that concealing the alleged rifle without disassembly is very much possible. The scope of this thread is not to prove Robinson's guilt. Topics such as 30-06 ballistics will be ignored. Because yes, I still think, despite all this, it is quite fucking retarded to think a 30-06 was stopped by Charlie Kirk's fucking thick-ass neck. Oh, just fucking flex that bitch. Oh, he was ready for it. He was ready. I think that's what it was. He was just flexing. This is a photo of the alleged rifle used by Robinson in the killing of Kirk. Is the only photo publicly available. The rifle has been identified as a Mauser M98 chambered in 30-06, a common hunting cartridge in the U.S. So you can see it here in kind of a generic hunting rifle looking thing. So the rifle has a fixed stock, which means the overall length of the rifle cannot be shortened without removing the stock entirely. Disassembly and reassembly would require tools and would be difficult tasks to accomplish while under duress. You can see here it shows a breakdown of it. Here's the stock. So this is the breakdown if you're to take it apart, because it's a bolt action, so it's got all these different little pieces, and so you can kind of see it's a little bit more complicated than your standard modern gun. Robinson wouldn't need to disassemble and reassemble the rifle if he could conceal it fully assembled on his person. In order to test the possibility, we must know the length of the rifle. Mauser M98s vary in length from 45 to 47 inches depending on the model. The alleged rifle's model differs from common models found through searching. The stock used on Robinson's rifle is likely either aftermarket or no longer in production. The exact length of this rifle is unknown due to this grainy-ass photo being our only evidence. So you can see he showed some other ones for comparison, and he then kind of highlighted the, I don't even know what you would call that. It's like kind of where you usually put your hand, like for the trigger type deal. It's not really the grip, I guess, whatever. But that you can tell they're kind of different. They have a different thing going on to them. It's slightly different. So just ever so slightly. For this demonstration, we'll assume the rifle is 45 to 47 inches. It says, I'm not an expert on Mauser M98s. If anyone has more info, please share. Next is Tyler Robinson's dimensions. Robinson is 5'10" or 70 inches tall per his Utah jail admissions information. Where does a 70-inch human being conceal a 45 to 47-inch rifle? If you tried to conceal the entire rifle in your pant leg, there would be a large, easily noticeable bulge. Ooh. The butt of the rifle would extend outside of your pants. Bending your leg would be impossible. Concealing a full rifle would need to be done under the following method. Note, this image is not up to scale, merely a demonstration of concept. So this is what he's talking about. For the audio listeners, it kind of shows the back view of a human. I mean, a poorly drawn human. It's kind of a little, you know what I mean. And then it shows the rifle kind of going not horizontally, across from from his left shoulder down to his right leg, on the back. So you can see it's running. So the stock would essentially be behind kind of right behind your left shoulder blade is kind of where the stock would be. And then right about the bend of your right knee is where the barrel would be, is the idea here. So essentially you stuff it behind there. It says if the rifle was positioned at an angle, it could shorten the overall height by a small amount. It would be a right fit, but it would be a tight fit, but could very well be doable, especially if the rifle was on the shorter end of the 45 to 47 inch range. On the day of the crime, Robinson wore a black long-sleeve shirt, blue jeans, and a backpack. A belt would likely have to be worn to secure the rifle in place. The backpack covering up the obvious bulge, from the rifle under his shirt behind his back. So now you can see here, you look at this, look at these. I will say his pant and this right one does kind of weirdly look tight in certain spots, but it's hard to tell from one photo. You could have, but now if you look at the backpack, this does kind of give you an idea, perhaps, you don't see a bulge in these. It's hard to make out, but you do kind of get the concept of I can kind of see. Now, I will say this, but on the left picture here in the bottom right, near where it theorizes the barrel is, the back of the pants does look funny, but it is grainy. But now the backpack is what we want to hone in on, because the idea is you would put a backpack over it, and that could actually obscure a lot of that. And it actually kind of could, I think, perhaps. This is another demonstration of where the rifle will be concealed again for proof of concept, not up to scale, so you get the idea. It's also kind of weird. You even see here, you can kind of see that faded, what seemingly an indent, and maybe our eyes are playing tricks on us right around where that barrel should be. So I think he might be right onto something. And also watch closely as Robinson walks. He hardly bends his right leg at the hip. He does bend at the knee because the positioning of the rifle allows for this. So let's watch this video. There's no audio before anyone says anything. It's just the security camera, the Ring doorbell shit. No. So you can see me on the left here, walking from left to right. That is definitely not a normal walk. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty convinced of this theory. Because that's not normal. That's not normal at all. Obviously I'm open to the idea that there was disassembly required, but all right, let's keep moving into the thread. What if Robinson was just limping weird because of some weird furry activities he engaged in with Lance Twiggs? Well, here's a video of him walking normally earlier that day without a concealed rifle. So here's another video of him walking another time, so you can kind of compare the two. See him walking perfectly normal. I think he's wearing shorts too. Yeah, walking completely normal. All right, back into the thread. My final theory is Robinson only needed to conceal the rifle on his person to get to the rooftop where he allegedly took the shot. Afterwards, he simply used a towel that was probably stored in his backpack to conceal the rifle while he ran away, which is what I was saying from the jump. I remember we were analyzing the video. I was like, I don't know. It looks like it could be a towel or something just obscuring it because, mean, a gun's just kind of like a line. If you do drop a towel over it, it's kind of like can't tell what it is. I am open to the possibility that he did disassemble and reassemble the rifle. It is possible, and it could be done quickly with enough practice. I simply do not see why he would need to disassemble the rifle to conceal it. The concealing of the rifle is a small part of a very important case. I'm waiting for more information to be released, such as the autopsy report, before concluding with certainty that a bullet fired from Robinson's rifle ended Charlie Kirk. My final piece of evidence concerning the concealment of the rifle is that Charlie Kirk came to me in a dream and told me that Tyler Robinson concealed the rifle in the way demonstrated. Trust me on this. And he also points out that here's Taylor Hansen, who gave like a breakdown of following the path. So to kind of get to the advantage, to kind of give you a different idea. So, I mean, that one did go viral and go around a bunch. All right, let's roll into the chat. I'm debating if I want to do the Baker. Let me glance at it real quick, see how long it is. Let's see the Baker thread. See how long his thread is on this. It's not that long. Yeah, let's take down Baker. Let's make fun of Steve Baker right now. Okie dokie. But let's pop the chat real quick, see what you guys got to say, and then we'll get into this last piece with Baker. Wait, what are you talking about, Pixie? Are you saying ignore Pixie's week-long campaign to get you two together to talk about this? No, I mean, I guess I haven't mentioned it yet, but yes, thank you, Pixie. That was very nice of you. Glad you set that up. I wasn't trying to ignore you. Let me see. Cultural Swine Media. I'm not even convinced Kirk is dead. Too much information, both real and fake, to conclude anything. Milk stops 30-06. Be sure to drink your milk. I got to pick up a gallon today. Thanks for reminding me. Because I go through them bitches like every other day. Hey, Nevsky. Out of here. See you, bud. Swedish Jim Goblin says he stuck it up his ass. You don't understand, Jose. Yeah, that's how you do it. Mulgara says Kurt Schlichter is spurging out at Massey for announcing there are now 218 votes to release the Epstein files. Well, let's fucking go. I believe 218 is what we needed, right? Unless what they're saying is Massey's saying otherwise. I don't know. Who even is Kurt Schlichter? I forgot who that guy even fucking is. That guy's still... I vaguely recall him being like relevant like 5 years ago, but I can't even remember what for. Is he like a baseball player or something? I don't know. You guys let me know. I don't remember what the fuck he's about. Culture Science doesn't believe anything that Unit 8200 mutant Alexis Wilkin tells us via cross-eyed cash. Tony Chin, definitely a plausible form of concealment. Joseph Valentine, he's walking like Chester on Gunsmoke. Let me see what else you guys got to think. Marnimac, I wonder whatever happened to that video of the crowd dispersing after the shot and a guy seen is running with what looks like a handgun. I don't think anything happened to it. I think I saw a lot of people disprove or dispel it, just kind of like a Utah's open carry, and there was a gun fired. I know it was weird. Didn't he have like leather gloves or something? So that's why everybody's like, oh my God, it's a fucking hitman. Which I don't know, maybe he's just a weird faggot who likes gloves. I've met weirdos who like gloves. You're like, that's their thing. They're like, leather jackets and gloves because my soul is dark. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. You'll never see me probably wearing those gloves. But yeah. Weird move. Unless I like into like biking or something. Knife Safety Plus, thanks, Jose. It took a lot of work, but it was worth it. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it was worthwhile. Because yeah, I mean, it's good to reevaluate information and don't get too stuck in your thoughts on things. So yeah, I was open to changing that, obviously. So I think you probably convinced me. I think you convinced me. Not that I was like, I guess, too strong on it. Although I guess on its face, it does sound ridiculous until you really sit there and think of it. So Bobo says the Utah police remind me of the New York City police who couldn't figure out that the kid had a Glock and an Antune suppressor and tried saying that it was an ultra rare suppressed internally bolt action pistol. Yeah. Schlichter is a columnist for townhall.com. Oh, okay. I don't know what that is. Good for him, I guess. All right, let's get through. Let's make fun of Steve Baker a little bit. Me and Austin made fun of him a little bit yesterday on Already Dead. We're gonna do it some more, and we're kind of jumping off Ken's vibe. He did a whole video on it recently, by the way, which I think this thread probably will do like a shortened version of a lot of that. Although not really. I think the video that Ken put out actually goes more into the flaws in the pipe bomb story as it's presented right now. Whereas I think the thread we're about to go is going to kind of go into why you should be maybe a little bit wary of individuals like Baker. So just saying. Here's Ken says, I don't just pick on Baker because he's a charlatan. It stems from me trying to challenge him on his mistakes in Spaces about a year ago. I was kicked out before I could talk 3 times. I know it wasn't Trash Discourse, which is the Twitter account, because he was the one who let me in and asked what happened after. So just a little, that's where the beef started. But since I've been over this before, but for the uninitiated, I didn't pay much attention to Baker until Butler when he reported the sniper shot Crooks from 448 yards. He said he had the data from the scope. It was a fake story. The sniper was on the Bard behind Trump around 150 yards away. Says later he admitted that he got it wrong, but blamed it on the fog of war. Now you see, journalists make mistakes, and I won't hang him for that alone. But he said he, in quotes, had the data from the scope, end quotes. He was lying, and he's never ran a correction here. And here's the thing, it said, I had nothing to do with what and who asked questions tonight on the Spaces. I wasn't the host or in charge of who asked questions. I certainly had no idea what you'd be asking. To your questions, when Crooks took the first shot from the SWAT officer, it hit his rifle and fragments shattered and pierced Crooks before the final headshot, resulting in the initial eyewitness reports of multiple holes. As to the initial report of the 448 shot, that was the same distance reported by Bongino and Eric Prince. He said 488 yards. We were obviously all receiving reports from the same USS source on the ground. I'm certain we will be correcting the report in a subsequent story. These things happened. These kinds of early fog of war mistakes are not uncommon and certainly not purposely misleading in any way. He says, let's return to his pipe bomb reporting. Here we have him saying the bomber talked to the Capitol Police the night of J5, a story underpinned by Serafin's analysis. Another fake story, and they ran an editor's note instead of retracting altogether. Another dud. Directed energy weapons authorized by General Milley in the 2020 riots. A story underpinned by a single anonymous source. No documentation, no other evidence. Oh, we're still him to follow up on the teaser about DEWs on the Capitol. I think he got a typo in there. So here is Kyle Serafin. He said a tweet that he's got here. He says, just finished putting an intense interview together with my friend Steve Baker of The Blaze. This is my second Sunday conversation. It's a doozy, y'all. Directed energy weapons, I can't tell you or they'll kill me. And they're J6 journalist for January. And then here it is, a first in a series of directed energy weapons. Retired General Mark A. Milley, who served as the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs from October 2019 through September 2023, made the disclosure at a private gathering in October 2024, the source said. Milley told a small group in October 2024, we had directed energy weapons at Lafayette Park in June 2020 to be used against rioters, the source said. According to the Blaze's news source, who was present at the meeting, in the full context of the discussion, I took that to mean that both Milley and then Secretary of Defense Mark Esper had signed off on the use of those weapons. Esper, the 27th Secretary of Defense, was sworn in on July 23rd, 2019, and was fired by President Trump on November 9th, 2020. The Blaze reached out to Esper for comment, but did not get a reply by press time. Coming next, were directed energy weapons used on January 6th. Keep in mind, that was all based off an anonymous source. Outside of his dubious journalism, there's the fact that he participated in the smear campaign against BX, which he did. However you feel, I don't know what the fuck that one was about. There was this weird point in time where Kyle Serafin, in the most bizarre of ways, and for whatever reason, I know a lot of you guys in the audience too. I'm in touch with my audience. I know what a lot of you guys think about BX. She's a nice lady, though. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she is the Fed. I don't fucking know. But I will say, if she is, then, well, like, there was some sort of Fed v. Fed thing here. But I don't think she is. I mean, but who knows? So, yeah, I know this. The very least, Kyle was acting a fool, regardless of what you think of BX. But you can go dig into that drama on your own. It was very odd. This was when they were before this. The current FBI came out and actually started. I don't know. I guess, how do I put this? Pushing 764 stuff, or not pushing it, being like, we're actually going to go after justice for this. BX was on that trail well before then, and before it became like a thing the FBI was actually pushing, Steve Baker, Kyle Serafin, and a few others went on this weird kind of, I don't know, tangent of like kind of, I don't know, trying to dispel this as if it's like kooky conspiracy shit, as if they're the reasonable ones in the room. Bear in mind, this reasonable one in the room is a complete boomer who spreads slop And I don't know. It comes off a little glowy, but who knows? Maybe he's just a sloppy boomer. Who knows? And there is his repeated and bizarre claim that 90% of gun crime is leftists shooting leftists. This is just silly boomer shit. Which, don't get me wrong, I mean, not that I'm a fan of leftists, but that sounds like some made up fucking stat entirely. So a little bit dig into that. I wonder I was hoping maybe I could find where Baker replied in here, because we did have a little bit of fun with him in this thread, but otherwise that might be the end of it. Although I do want to take. Here we go. I found him. He says it was from a Department of Interior IG report. I guess for the anonymous report. So try public record. Try harder. He said. Then Ken says, "Do you even know your own reporting? The IG report is about long-range acoustic devices, which you specifically said were not part of the supposed DEW program for Milley. I'm guessing Hanneman is the one who actually wrote this, so it makes a lot of sense that you're clueless." So Ken's kind of implying, I don't even think you fucking wrote this. So yeah, and he shows there, his source for that. It's funny that I know Ken then goes, it's like, he goes, he never responded to this, which he didn't. He didn't respond to it. Let's see if we can find some more responses, because like I said, there were some funnies in there from Baker. I know I got a little, I was trolling on him a little. Let's see if I can find it. Let's go up another. I already showed that one. Sorry. This isn't great content when I do this. Sorry. I'm trying to find it. All right, we already looked at the directed energy weapons. Oh, I think it was on the first claim, because I think this one right here. Let's get into this. See if we can find Baker. Let's find him. Then I also pointed out too, which I think I said something to you guys recently. I said this seemed like a blaring, or I pointed out an old post of mine right here where this used to be his Twitter @. I said, "Are you seriously considering Alan Dershowitz as a lawyer? I did misunderstand the point of your story and how Alan offered to take your case on pro bono." I put the please say psych. And within this, I think I know I saw the replies or quotes. He did he kind of played it off like it was a nothing. Oh no, I had to fucking bug the shit out of him, and I think I got some responses. Here we go. He said, "I said exactly what happened. Couldn't have been more clear." I know another reply, he says some weird shit about how the deep state went after Dersh or something. So and bear in mind, this episode that I'm referring to where he said this thing about Alan Dershowitz was on Clint Russell, my buddy, Liberty Lockdown show, and the whole basically the topic was kind of libertarianism and his kind of how he's a libertarian, whatever the fuck he is, so it was the first half of the episode at least was all about libertarian bona fides and shit, and then at the end you're like, yeah, Alan Dersh was talking about taking my shit pro bono, isn't that fucking awesome? You're like, are you fucking retarded? Anyways, let's see if I can't find the reply here. From Baker. Let's get back here. I think it's in here. Baker. Because I think he said something I remember he said something oh, this was Bongino that said that. It's I bet you wouldn't say this to Bongino. And it's we would. He fucking sucks. Oh, here it is. I found it. And here's Baker's response to, what is this one? Oh yeah, the Fog of War one. This is his response to the initial shot, the data from the scope. He said, "Oh, he had the data from the scope." So, but yeah, and then here he is. He goes, "Not exactly. Both Dan Bongino and Eric Prince reported the same yardage. That's the intel we were all getting from the sniper's dope book. So if you want to criticize me, then criticize Bongino in the same breath. Come on, do it." To which I said, "Bongino is a guerrilla faggot working for pedophiles." And then Ken dropped the dope. I can't think of his name. Why can't I think of Sam Hyde? Sam Hyde's the Sam Hyde's rant about Bongino that he did a while back. So yeah, this is the man that all of conservative Twitter is, kind of woohoo, slowly setting their head into the guillotine to make themselves maybe, just maybe, who knows? Maybe this is all legit. Just look like fucking retards when that thing comes down and oh wow, this is a bunch of fucking bullshit. Isn't that great? Keep in mind, I believe Glenn Beck himself said some shit along the lines of, "Oh, this is a key to understanding J6," which I'm okay, maybe it is, but it does seem like there seems to be this effort to make this the hugest thing. This is This is the Rosetta key to understanding J6. This is everything. Meanwhile, what's at the very core of this, what holds all of this together is gate technology. And here's an expert analysis who said that he would not participate in prosecution if the only defense was it. Here's Dr. Michael Nuremberg. He's helped convict and exonerate people using gate analysis, but he's careful to point out that such findings should not be the only evidence used against someone. He says more than one person can walk the same way, so it's just one piece of the puzzle. Nuremberg says he would not participate in a prosecution if the only evidence was gate analysis. A few years ago, the FBI asked him to study the video of the suspect in the Missy Bevers murder investigation. Now, I will say, if you do watch the Ken video I was referencing, where he goes into all the flaws in the reporting, he's judging by the way they worded it. He was like, they very well, keep in mind, too, this would actually fall in line with how he seems to report. He seems to be damn near just a stenographer for the FBI. So I think, and keep in mind, gate analysis is typically a proprietary law enforcement technology. So it seems to me like he very well could just got who knows if he even got a fucking piece of paper with a printout or anything. He literally, if I had to guess, he probably just had some fucking glow. He was like, oh, here's the fucking info. And he goes, okay, thank you, sir. And then now we're all just fucking spiraling over this. And then kind of more, oh shit, I just realized I fucked over my whole time. I totally forgot all about foreign policy. We'll have to do foreign policy tomorrow. I was wondering how I was cruising through time. I was like, man, I'm crushing it on time. I was like, I completely did not foreign policy at all. I just realized that. All right, back to gate technology. Is gate analysis used in criminal courts? Bear in mind, this is Grok, so who fucking knows? It says, no, forensic gate analysis hasn't been admitted as expert evidence in U.S. criminal courts as it lacks rigorous Doebert validation for reliability and error rates. It's been used in UK cases like R v Saunders, but U.S. trials rely more on lay witness observations of gate rather than scientific methods. Emerging tech like AI-assisted gate recognition faces skepticism over uniqueness and admissibility. All right, guys, let's pop in the chat and let's get out of here. We've sufficiently made fun of Baker. Let's check and see what you guys can say. Let's get the fuck out of here. Everyone's saying thank you for my cervix in the Air Force. That was yesterday, dude. That's yesterday. That's when you gotta thank me for that shit. That's funny. But it's actually pretty funny. I didn't even think about that. Good call, Bug Fights. He says, referring the 90% leftist thing, he says that's the boomer way of saying black on black without being called racist. It's actually pretty funny. If you did classify that as leftist crime, which I guess you could kind of fairly probably do that. Like if you were theoretically going to be like, what is some gangbangers politics? It's probably whatever gives them the most money, which is going to be Democrats. So like, maybe boomers, maybe he's technically correct. Although I think it's a little unfair to call them Democrats. I think they're just non-political people, but whatever. Damn it, I read it. Bongino is a WAP fag, says Tom33. Justin says, just a coincidence, all those feds in the crowd and J6 knew Trump was going to quickly organize a field trip to the Capitol that day. Whoa. No way. God damn it. I knew this was something like this guy. Mulgara is saying, it looks like Nancy Mace might withdraw her signature from the Epstein shit. You know what's fucking funny too? I from the jump thought something was weird about the Nancy thing because she was one of the ones who jumped on it. And she fucking sucks, dude. She sucks. She's like, I've had a bookmark for a while. I just didn't really make sense to cover her probably for like a week or two. This supposed, like, it seems like fake rape charges or some shit or something along those lines, and kind of getting Sue crazy. And her being one of the ones in the Epstein thing from the jump, I was like, oh no, she's clearly using this as she likes to make everything into a media circus for her and like how, all of this stuff. So I was like, her being on it, I'm like, she's not reliable. So I guess that totally checks. That fucking sucks. Well, alrighty. Well, I'll come back with you guys tomorrow and let you know if there's something more information on that front. But that actually totally checks out. Jose's gay now, says Boba. I did read the gay thing. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Love you all. Leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Man, I was trying to set up the outro, and give me a second. Now, if you want to follow the show, you can do that on Rumble, on YouTube, all the major audio podcatchers, Twitter as well, at Tower Gang Jose. That's where you can do that at. And I give a whole host of perks. Usually keep out 1 to 2 episodes behind the paywall per week. Usually keep 4 all together. You got ad-free RSS feed. You also get access to Telegram. You get access to pre-show, post-show, and access to the video calls of me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And also give a big shout-out to my sponsors at the end of every episode. Is a big thank you for everything they do. I have my previous co-hosts in Tower Gang, at Learn Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _ Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebel, big fan of the show, Torme, at Wayne Tackless, 1-800-CARS for Kids, No Free Lunch Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. And with that, guys, we're going to get out of here, but we're going to fucking dance. We're going to dance like it's our last day on this earth, because that's the sort of thing I like to do as an outro. Keep that in mind, guys. When you're finding me outros out there in the wild, you guys are finding me content, be my little content gatherers. This sort of shit. This is what I want to go out on. I want to go out on a banger like this. You see what I mean? And with that, don't forget, you guys can tag me and stuff online, whether it be like one of the introductory type topics, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's something you think would make a good main topic to talk about, or if it's even just something silly, like an outro or something you think it would work well for content for the show. Feel free to tag me. I don't really spend a whole lot of time on Twitter. I try to stay off of it. So I have you guys out there, my eyes and ears. So help a brother out, and I'll give you a shout out. I usually try to follow back my regulars. So much love, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.
I don't give a shit about dead kids. I got my $7,000. I love getting paychecks from Zionists. I don't have any morals, I just love to get money. I don't care about genocide, I actually think it's funny. I can spell Jerusalem or point to where it is, but I probably stand with Israel as Apex, bitch. I want the shekels, reach and fame. I couldn't care less how many innocents are slain. I will go kiss the wall if that's what I have to do. I have no problem being a good goy for Jew. I got my $7,000. I don't give a shit about dead kids. I got my $7,000. I love getting paychecks from Zionists. Don't come at me with requests to debate. You just wanna pick on the only Jewish state. You wanna bring up Gaza and the USS Liberty, but who caused the pogroms of Jews throughout history? You're clearly jealous of the Jewish people and me. I know this extra 7,000 makes you see you're just a loser, an anti-Semite. You hate the chosen people and love to ankle bite. I got my $7,000. I don't give a shit about dead kids. I got my $7,000. I love getting paychecks from Zionists. I got my $7,000. I don't give a shit about dead kids. I got my $7,000. I love getting paychecks from Zionists.
Israel's
All
right
right,
to
what's
defend
up, niggas?
itself.
Welcome to the show.